the penalty for contempt is also grievous. So there is a difference, even though the penalty specified already is hard enough for anyone who refuses to act according to the provisions of the Electoral Act. But where you now have a subsisting court order, and that subsisting court order is breached, then the penalty will double. And that is why this order is very imperative, because the lack of the respect of the provisions of the Act already is costing us a lot of conflict already, because now we now have litigation. Almost all the parties, the major parties that conducted the presidential election are already warming up to go to court to ask that the court nullify the election on the basis of that action. So INEC must be responsible enough to know that if the March 11th election is not uploaded instantly after counting from the polling unit, there will be severe consequences. And these consequences will stem out from a violation of a subsisting court order. And once we are not talking about disobeying the orders of court, then it will come with the consequences of contempt, what contempt means in the true sense of it.
All right. I'm sure at this point Adebayo would want to add to what we're discussing. Adebayo.
Yes, Maureen, thank you. It's good to be getting your perspectives. Thank you so much for the points that you raised and the clarifications that you gave. I was just wondering, if you look at the presidential elections and the process, why we still had to go through that entire process when there's an electronic means of transmitting results, and when there could have been video link, all the state recs could have just announced the results of the presidential election in each of their states using a video link. Mm-hmm. The reason I say this was because there was so much delay waiting for recs to come to Abuja. Thankfully, this is a governorship election. The results are going to be declared at the state level. But does this court judgment now imply that, first of all, the time span for getting results will be shorter? Because if results have been uploaded directly through BVAS, obviously there should be no going to the local government before getting to the state. They can collate directly and give the total results of the votes scored by each candidate. And the second related question is, what is the implication of this judgment? Because Labour Party was focused on Lagos for this case, if I'm correct. What's the likely implication of that judgment for the conduct of the gubernatorial elections in other states by INEC? Did you hear me?
Hello. Evans?
I'm not sure, Evans.
Yeah.
Okay. You're talking about the implication of the judgment as it relates to the governorship election for the 11th of March, right?
Yes.
Yes, and also, just so you take both of them together, the possibility that there will be a short period within which results will be announced if BVAS is going to be used. The results of each polling unit now do not need to go to the local government collation centers, yes, but they go straight to the state collation center anyway, because it's the same server.
Well, yeah, the truth is that, let me take the second one first. The truth is that it does not matter how long it takes before the results are announced, as long as the results announced are in correlation with what was uploaded. Because the essence of this upload is the human element and the discrepancies that follow the manual collation processes, where politicians will intercept the recs and the INEC officials on their way through the bottlenecks, the local government collation center to the state collation center, then to the federal and all that. In this case, it does not really matter. What matters is that eventually the results are announced, and that the results so announced must be in correlation with the results that were uploaded by the viewers. Anything short of that would mean that there's malpractice. And it will open up the vistas for litigation. And then the evidence for contestation in court will become very glaring and overwhelming that the results you have either have been mutilated, they have been tampered with, also it will be very clear. Because, you see, the security and the fidelity of the results and the polling unit is sure because the citizens are there. The party agents are there. So once people cast their votes and they stay back, and the party agents stay back, and they count the results in the presence of everyone, and they announce the results, the fidelity of that result is secured. You see, the elections are rigged when they begin to move it from one polling
Evans,
center.
hello, sorry, Evans. Hello, Evans. Evans, can you hear me? Hello, Evans.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I wonder if you could just take a little break and tell people in your office to just give you just a little break for this interview because the background noise is becoming unbearable. Could you do that? Perhaps we take a short break so that can be cleared. You're still watching the run-up on Plus TV Africa. We're having a bit of interactions. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. You're still watching the run-up. We had to take that quick break because, well, being a Monday morning, Evans' office is very active. We needed to make sure that we had some quiet for this interview. But Evans, before we went on that break, you were answering some very cogent questions from Adebayo. You may want to continue from where we stopped.
Yes, Evans, can you hear me?
Evans, are you still with us? All right. Well, he was talking about the need for the results to correlate and, without discrepancies. Adebayo, that is very key, isn't it? Very crucial. And he was also saying that it doesn't matter how long it took the results to get to the collation center as long as it tallies with what is being uploaded.
Absolutely, and this was the crux of the problem with the presidential elections, yes, where a number of parties complained that the numbers that their polling agents reported in the situation room was contrary to what was finally uploaded by INEC. Mm-hmm. And I guess the court case that the Labour Party instituted in order to obtain the injunction to compel INEC to upload results from each polling unit by leaders in Lagos is going to be extremely significant. But Evans was actually going to take the next question I asked him, which was whether this court injunction regarding the conduct of the gubernatorial election in Lagos State could have implications for other states, so could be a precedent. Perhaps when he joins us, he will be able to address that. But I think something interesting is happening, given the way LP has gone about this. So I think Evans, is back. If he probably now can follow through on
yes,
his submission.
Yeah. I'm just being informed that we have Evans, and we also have Dotun joining us as well. Hello, Dotun.
Yes, it's a pleasure to be on your program. program. Good morning. Sorry for the break of network.
Pleasure
I'm
to
really
have
happy to be
you.
here.
Are you in your car?
Thank you very much.
It does appear you're in your car.
Yes. Just yes.
We do appreciate the
Yes.
tenacity. Evans,
Yes.
perhaps you should conclude with the questions you were dealing with before we had that break in transmission with
I
you.
was talking about, he talked about whether this will make any difference or not. The court order.
All right, we're still having a bit of problem. Well, these things happen on live television.
Source.
All right, Mr. Dotu.
In this case, hello, can you hear me?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, in this case, any violation will not just be restricted to the fact that the INEC, the Electoral Act is violated, or just that the provisions of the INEC directive is violated. It will not be that there's a court order that has been violated. So that is the difference. And then in that case, contempt applies. Okay. And as regards the logistics, how long it will take before they collate, I'm saying that it does not matter how long it takes, as long as they are able to show that the result they upload is in line with the same result that was announced at the polling unit. Because at the polling unit, you actually have fidelity of the result, in the sense that the electors are there in the polling units. The party agents are there at the polling unit. So they will determine the security and protection of that result at the polling unit level. And that is why the INEC direction actually says they should transmit that result at that level. Because anything apart from that, you don't have mutilation, you don't have human elements, okay, violating the process.
Okay, let's go to Dotu. Dotu, we're taking a look at this court injunction that the Labour Party has gotten to compel INEC to maintain status quo when the election is conducted, the governorship election is conducted on Saturday. We're looking at the effect, the whole consequence of it, what it means, the difference between this court injunction and the guidelines, the set guidelines that were used on the 25th of February. Dr. asked some questions. All right, we're also having problems with Dotun's connection. Well, Adebayo.
Yeah, I can hear you.
While our guests try to sort out their connection, one of the things they said, Evans, one of the points he made regarding the party agents is something I would like us to talk about right now. Those who are saying that the elections were not rigged would say to you, but your party agents signed. The party agents signed the document before it was read. And then you have cases where some party agents said that they were coerced to sign.
Yes, that's a very pertinent dimension to the problem. I was listening to one of the election observers from Ghana. He was talking about the experiences. He's a politician himself, and he was deputy minister in Ghana. But now, of course, he was part of the ECOWAS observer mission. And he was talking about the role of party agents and relating the experiences his own party had in Ghana, where they never took the function of party agents seriously. And they went into an election that everybody believed they had won. By the time the results were announced, they lost the elections. And then by the time they mobilized their party agents to put together all the results in order for them to go to court, they had a very big problem. Why am I mentioning this? It underscores the importance of the work of party agents, in so many ramifications. And that's why what you have raised is quite pertinent. First of all, you need to have enough party agents to cover the entire polling structure for that particular election. And secondly, your party agents must not be persons who can be compromised.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes the way in which party agents are appointed by our political parties might not even follow any particular, order. It might just be somebody recommending somebody or somebody looking for something for somebody to do. But the job these people are going to do is absolutely very important.
Very critical.
And therefore, yes, so I feel that it's a big lesson for all the political parties to ensure that whoever they are appointing as party agents are persons of integrity. You know, this gentleman, the election observer, when he was talking, he said the lesson they learned from that was that in subsequent elections, they always made sure that all party agents were members of the party and had to undergo a 2-week training before the elections.
You know, one would have thought, Dr. Adebayo, that one would have thought that the parties would have, considering how important the elections are to them, that they would have taken so much care to ensure that their agents are loyal party members. I remember at the polling unit where I cast my vote, I went home and came back to ensure that I witnessed the counting of the votes. All right, but I left afterwards. But before leaving, I made inquiries regarding who the party agents were. I wanted to know if the parties had their various party agents there. And for me, I thought it was given that they would see to it that these results were uploaded and that they were duly signed and that there wouldn't be any problems. I went home happy until later on I learned that, they were having problems with beavers, they were having problems with this. Like, hello. So it is important, and what you said is very, very true.
It is. The gentleman also said that they made sure that each party agent knew the total number of voters for that, based on the reports of the Electoral Commission. They knew the number of voters there, and so this background information was part of what should be available to them before they could do their job in each of the polling units. So now we are realizing the critical role that party agents can play, and the fact that they can't just be anyone. Because he said, he observed in some parts of Nigeria where he was observing the elections, party agents sitting under the tree when elections were going on. You know, that's absolutely ridiculous, since the job for which they were there was to observe the elections and to raise, issues which have to do with protecting the interests of their various political parties. But let's hope that the judgment that the Labour Party secured will be a contribution to strengthening our democracy, and enhancing the work of party agents and the importance of party agents.
All right. Hello, Doctor. Do we have you back?
Yes.
All right. Please go ahead and answer
Yes.
the questions you were about answering before we had that break in transmission.
Yes, the essence of our democracy is all about participation and planning. The level of our commitment differs. Yes, we are growing as a democracy. Yes, the advent of Labour Party in this year's election was, I will term it as a party of necessity that came with the rouse of the pains and the swoop on that wave, without the party itself being grounded with membership, with state structure, with local government structure, with every.
Oh, wow.
Everybody did everything that affect our own result and every other thing that is showing up at this period. And we also, prior before now, when INEC published a list of agents of each political party, I don't think Labour was able to present up to 40% of the list of their agents. It shows that there is a need for preparation so that the omission of one's act will not be used as an albatross, as a means of contriving and making the entire process not to write home about. But as a country, we need to actually give our court kudos, because if not for judiciary, a whole lot of things would have gone under the the carpet, but we still believe that we shouldn't use the
All right.
one of the issues. So we can be able to still bring together inter-party relations. We need to train the citizen. We know how this election came about. A lot of us were still thinking there will be postponement of the election because INEC preparation, the entire scenario that led to the process, there are a lot of preponderance of factors that affected the preparation of this election. But be that as it may, we are where we are now. Then we need to live with it. Then plan ahead of the gubernatorial election as a way forward. All party agents ahead of the gubernatorial election must be well trained, must be well abreast with facts. Then, as a pointer, I always raise it. INEC is here to do the needful when it comes to recruitment of their own staff or their ad hoc staff. INEC has a capacity that will be managing election in a situation whereby
All right. The network today is just not very friendly. I don't know whether it's because it's a Monday or not, but it is not friendly. Adebayo, let's talk about this governorship election that's coming. It's crucial. Oftentimes you find that during elections, most people...
INEC is used to...
All right, so you find that most people seem to be more concerned about the presidential elections more than they are about the governorship and state of assembly elections. So what has been your observation, Adebayo? Do you see any kind of excitement in the air towards this governorship election and the state houses of assembly elections in any way?
Area where I am, people were disappointed. Some people were, not some, a lot of people were disappointed, and especially young people, and were feeling like there would be no point for them to turn up for the governorship election. But in the last 3-4 days, I've seen a change again. You know, it's like now they feel no, they will go all out as they did for the presidential elections. Maybe this is due to the calls by the Labour Party and the PDP and the other parties, you know, for their supporters not to give up. The race is not yet over, and to show up. And I think that this is the right spirit, because we are going to have all these elections in any case before we can rightfully say we've had general elections. So I think that there's enthusiasm, you know. Until election day, of course, before we can say whether the turnout is going to be as much as, you know, what we saw during the presidential elections. But definitely, I think the enthusiasm is back up to where it was before we had the presidential elections. If you allow me, Maureen, I just feel something related to this question because Dotun was talking about INEC. You know, while we said the political parties ought to train their agents properly and prepare the agents properly and have adequate number of agents, Dotun raised the question of INEC itself. You know, he feels INEC itself hasn't done enough to train its own staff, you know, because, and I think reasonably he's correct, because you saw some voters, when they were asking questions of the ad hoc staff, many of them were not getting, you know, correct answers. Why aren't you uploading the results? Why isn't this happening? And the polling agents were the INEC staff were as confused as anyone else. So INEC does need to train. If there's going to be a refresher for its ad hoc staff, it can request that. There's still time. It could be a one-day refresher before the elections of the 11th. And the security agents, this is another important issue, because for instance, yes, the judiciary is there, and everyone would obviously, who has a grievance, would take it there. But the police and other security agents must understand what role they are supposed to play. In situations where ballot boxes were being snatched or polling results, you know, strewn all over the floor, The spokesperson for the Nigerian police headquarters was quoted in a tweet as saying that what did they expect unarmed police officers at the polling booth to do? That statement should not be coming from the police headquarters. Mm-hmm. The police has statutory roles to perform. And I feel, therefore, that the police itself needs to do some sort of orientation for all of its officers before the next round of elections. Yeah. When people see police officers at polling booths, they should feel confident enough that there are police officers there and therefore go all out to cast their votes. Not now being scared that regardless of whether there are police officers there or not, they don't feel safe.
Yeah. PlusTvAfrica, one of the monitors of these elections, gave serious knocks to INEC, because according to them, their observation, their report from what happened, INEC's level of preparedness in terms of training their ad hoc staff just didn't meet their requirements. And talking about the presence of police not stopping anything in terms of violence at those polling units, you are absolutely right. Because, are you telling me that if a policeman doesn't have arms, he cannot do anything but just stand and watch and see a harmless Nigerian being threatened or even being molested or harmed? Because the presence of a uniformed policeman should give me some level of confidence that I have some sort of security wherever I see a policeman around. All right. Well, another thing I want us to talk about is the fact that governors over the years have not shown themselves to be people who are creative. They've not been able to make the states viable, which is, I think, is a major reason why most people do not take governorship elections as seriously as they should, and also that of state houses of assembly. In fact, they are seen as mere appendages to the governors, and which, for me, is a major reason you have widespread poverty at the grassroots levels. Your take on that, Adebayo?
You're right, Maureen, you're absolutely right. You see, there are two levels to this. On the one hand, you have this call for restructuring, fiscal federalism, giving the states more powers. Fine. But on the other hand, even with what is available at the moment, a lot of governors have not performed. Mm-hmm. A lot of governors are often interested in white elephant projects. They sink billions into those projects, while they should actually be focused on human capital development, making the primary schools good places of learning, the educational system, the primary healthcare system, and so on and so forth. All of these are the responsibility devolving on the states, under the residual list of the Constitution, And if you now look at the quantum of work that is expected of the states, I think we won't be dealing fairly with ourselves if we took governorship elections with levity. I think we citizens really need to understand that governorship elections are as important as the federal elections. Because in reality, which power does the president of Nigeria have? He has powers over defense, foreign policy, coinage of currency, and foreign affairs. Okay? And then, of course, there are some other issues around there which the federal government dispenses largesse. But in reality, the federal government only has powers largely over those four, right? The rest of the powers are either on the concurrent list, where the federal and state governments can both legislate, or exclusively on the residual list, where only the states can legislate. Mm-hmm. Exactly. But people tend to think if the gutter in front of their house is not flowing, it's the president in Abuja who is responsible. So we need to take seriously the position of governors, and people really need to turn up for the governorship elections and choose the right people.
We really need to choose the right people. Meritocracy should be elevated in this country. All right, moving forward, the national leadership of the People's Democratic Party is set for a black uniform protest march today at the national headquarters of the Independent National Electoral Commission in Abuja. Well, the Independent National Electoral Commission on Wednesday declared the APC presidential candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu as winner of the February 25th election after polling 8,794,726 votes to defeat the PDP candidate Atiku Abubakar, Peter Obi of the Labour Party, and 15 other candidates in the exercise. The party has since rejected the INEC's declaration and vowed to challenge the outcome of the election in court. The Director of Administration in the PDP Presidential Campaign Council, Ibrahim Bashir, who confirmed the protest in a notice to party members on Sunday, urged them to appear at the party National Secretariat in Abuja in black outfit. The PDP National Chairman, Iyorchia Ayu, the vice presidential candidate of the party in the just concluded election, Governor Ifeanyi Okowa of Delta State, amongst other leaders of the party, will lead the protest. Others invited to the protest march include the chairman of PCC and governor of Akwa Ibom State, Udom Emmanuel, the DG of the PCC and Sokoto State Governor, Aminu Tambuwal. Now, I don't know if our lawyers are still with us. Is the network allowing them? Evans? Dr. Hassan? Hello, Dr. Oh, wow. All right. It's just me and you now. So, Adebayo. Hello, Dr. Hello, Dr. All right, Mr. Adebayo. We're unable to connect with our guest, so let's just trash this out. So the PDP wants to protest today. How logical or illogical do you think this action is?
Well, on the lighter side first, it's interesting to see the PDP as opposition after so many years in power and then being out of power for 8 years, and now actually carrying out the role of opposition or activist. But it's all within the democratic framework, so it's good to see that. And I think also, I think the PDP should be commended for deciding to go on this demonstration by itself, its officials, some of its members, rather than asking for so many people, because then they can lose control of it. So I think the idea to organize it in this way is done so that they can control it.
Oh, but if you notice, at the initial stage, they wanted to get as many parties to join them to kick against INEC. I think it got to a point where the different parties decided that, you know what, let's just go our ways and fight this thing individually. More so, the Labour Party has been advised not to allow itself, thanks to Ayo Fayose. I'm quoting Ayo Fayose now, former Governor Ayo Fayose. In fact, Governor Ayo Fayose. He wouldn't want that ex-governor tagged to it. He has advised the Labour Party not to get itself stained with the PDP, his own party, which he went on national television to distance himself from. So I'm thinking that the reason why they are going alone this time is because the other parties have decided to also go separately.
Yeah, I think, I agree with you. Strategically, it's good for the other parties to maintain their own identity, because they all have perhaps different perspectives of fighting the cases that they have all, especially PDP and LP, have instituted in court. But I think still that this way the PDP can control this. But more importantly, they are putting INEC under pressure. I think this is the entire idea behind the protest. Because it's good, we're already talking about it. We're on national TV. We haven't watched from outside Nigeria as well. So essentially, it's not only within Nigeria that this will be reported, it will be reported internationally as well, that one of the political parties staged demonstrations in front of the office of the National Electoral Body. So this puts INEC under more pressure and increases the visibility of the commission and the scrutiny that the commission is being exposed to. And INEC just has nowhere to hide. It has to improve in its conduct, significantly improve in its conduct of the next set of elections. I think that's the whole idea behind this protest.
Okay, but there is also the concern that these, you said that they probably decided to go alone so that they can control it, but there is also the concern that this could also be hijacked. We've seen peaceful protests in the past in this part of the world hijacked by touts, hijacked by opposition, in quote, those who are opposing those who are protesting peacefully. Do you not share that fear that it could be hijacked and could be messed up?
It could be, that possibility is always there. But if I assume the number of people to be involved in this isn't going to be a very huge number, and secondly, and therefore the police should be able to cordon off areas that they need to, because I assume they will be escorted by the police, just to make sure that unauthorized persons do not join in the procession to compound the whole thing or to create some chaos. And I sincerely want to believe that wouldn't be the objective of the PDP as well, because it's a major stakeholder in elections that are still yet to be conducted. If only for that reason, it's in his interest as well to make sure that whatever is being done today to show its disquiet, to express its disquiet with INEC, will be done, peacefully and within the ambit of the law, and they would also ensure that it's not hijacked. But of course, that's where the police has to live up to its responsibility to make sure that law and order is maintained.
Thank you so much, Adebayo. We just have to just watch and see how it plays out today with this protest. Thank you so much. I've been told to wrap up. Adebayo Olowoke has been my virtual guest. We also had two virtual guests, Ivan Ufeli, a constitutional lawyer, and Dr. Hassan, a legal practitioner who had made attempt to join us, but we had some technical glitches with them. Well, it's been the run-up on Plus TV Africa. We'll join you again tomorrow for more analysis of the elections. I am Maureen Menong-Wezuge. Many thanks for watching.
So what are the top decisions that the United States considers necessary that Nigeria must take? I like to think of my interactions as conversations, not interviews. And that's why I say asking questions is both an art and a science. Everyone says in Islam, you are allowed to have 4 wives. Is it mandatory? The right question enables answers that educate, inform, clarify, and help you, the viewer, to better understand the issue before making up your mind.
Our goal is to reduce from 10 to 2 days the time it takes to register businesses in Nigeria.
Join me every week on this station, Plus TV Africa, and gain exclusive access to my conversations. I'm Angela Ajetumobi.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here. According to Minister of State for Health, Dr. Olorunimbe Mamora, about 18 states in the Federation are still endemic, with more than 1,000 new leprosy cases yearly. He explained that the number of new leprosy cases detected yearly has significantly dropped from over 7,827 in 1994 to less than 2,000 in 2020. The Voice of Humanitarian Aid's Foundation took to the streets to march against the ostracization of people affected by leprosy and loud about changing the narrative. At her office, the National Coordinator of Voice of Humanitarian Aid, Franca Emekobum, shared the group's experiences from the field with people affected by leprosy.
Even we that are even speaking up for them, sometimes, it wasn't easy for our families and our friends to even accept, that what we are doing is not risky. They are even afraid to come close to me. They're scared. Initially they say, oh, no. We don't want you and this your leprosy people, please.
Franca maintained that discriminating against the people with leprosy in itself is a deadly disease.
Already they are in pain. Already they are in sorrow. We should not add to that sorrow by discriminating against them. Rather, we should, come together as, people of God, one nation, one love, one family.
Dr. Yohen Akase is the head of infectious diseases at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, Luth. He confirmed that leprosy is not contagious.
With leprosy, the truth of the matter is that over 90% of people, in fact, that's a conservative estimate to be honest, but over 90% of people who get exposed to leprosy are not going to have leprosy. Okay? So yes, it's not such a contagious infectious disease in the context of how we look at contagion, that if somebody has leprosy, touches you, you're going to get leprosy. In fact, it's well known that there are a certain, for lack of a better word, genetic predispositions to getting, not everybody is going to get leprosy, even if they get exposed to that. Picking somebody who has already had a deformity at that time to keep him isolated, apart from the fact that it's not interrupting the chain of transmission, it has, like you said, it entrenches the concept of stigma, denies them of being productive, being rehabilitated and getting on with their lives, living a normal life as possible. And also, generally, doesn't achieve much, to be honest.
Jim Mohammed is a survivor of leprosy. He was affected at the age of 19 when he gained admission into Ahmadu Bello University, but could not continue his studies.
That was 1999, the first time I just detected that I got a leprosy, because I don't even know that it's a leprosy before. I was just told that I have some patches in my body, which I was just thinking that it's just be a ringworm. They are calling it a las egedomi. And I went to some people that are selling the herbs, that okay, I need the herbs for this thing, and they give it to me, and I'm using it. After using it, I don't even see any changes. That is why my mom just took me to one herbalist, which we are calling Babalawo, and the man just said that this one is leprosy.
The father of 3 recalled how he battled with discrimination.
During that time, I have some challenges with some maybe neighbors, even in where I'm living with my mom. One of the person that, the owner of the house, because we rented that house by then, we just said that, this one, we have to take it outside, because his father has house. Definitely you should go to his father's house. Don't let me lie to you. My faith is not solid by then. Because I was just thinking, asking God, why me?
The survivor is the chairman of the Association of People Affected with Leprosy and the PRO of the national body. He is particular about ensuring that nobody with leprosy ends up as a beggar on the streets.
Shimori Badejo holds a first degree in mass communications, master's in communications arts, and a PhD in social psychology, specializing in mass mobilization.
The simplest definition of public relations, which also relates to a nation, is doing good and letting people know. Now, what we hear, it's people demarketing even their country. I grew up in a home where the fear of God was actually implanted on us.
What led you to
the good old days, I realized that they lack sense of history. Even if history is not allowed in schools anymore, let us see how we can bring snippets of this history.
Timeless Conversations, airing every Saturday at 8:30 p.m.
How can we have peace without justice?
Plus Politics. It's not just another political conversation, it's about keeping you in the know. The relevant interviews, asking the tough questions to those that matter. Get the answers you need. Does it mean that the people who were injured, people who were shot at, those who were involved in that stampede are not going to get justice?
It is unfortunate, it is sad that we have a government of deaf and dumb.
Analysis from top experts.
The last election was not really an election.
We feel that Obasanjo has a very special place in his heart for hating Ijaw people.
I think it really boils down to two things. One, trust and accountability.
Plus Politics, every weeknight at 7 p.m. on PlusTvAfrica.
Nigeria, by extension, Africa, is faced with a lot of challenges. The growing youth population with little engagement, that is a ticking time bomb. We are a blessed people with diverse culture and highly cerebral minds who have a lot to say. And yes, we are talking. It is important we drive the right conversation that informs, inspires, influences thought and action. If we say there's beauty in our diversity, then let us embrace our diverse culture. We must continue to courageously be the voice of transformation as we are the hope for the future. Yesterday's conversations shape today. What are you saying to shape your tomorrow? We know you have a lot to say, and we are here to hear you.
The quality of thinking and the depth of thought of Nigerians is super low resolution. You know Lantern, the days of Lantern, like it's so low, it's lowest resolution, and you see that in the way like we're just tweeting, and people are not independent thinkers.
We can't expect to always apply violence, because one of the issues pointed out during the last election was violence.
We saw the videos, we saw pictures, we saw people came out, the youths came out. We could see the emotion and then the actions towards this election.
Their own thinking pattern is we vote and our candidate must win by hook or by crook, therefore we will intimidate other people.
Good afternoon. I am Destiny Momor, and this is the news update. The supporters of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, have gathered for a protest at the headquarters of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in Abuja. The protest, which we learned will be led by the party's leadership, is part of the party's stance that the just concluded presidential and National Assembly elections were not transparent. An All Progressives Congress candidate, Bola Tinubu, polled 8,794,726 votes and was declared president-elect 4 a.m. Wednesday by INEC. The former Lagos State governor came out tops in 12 of Nigerian 36 states and secured significant numbers in several other states to claim the highest number of votes at 8,794,726, almost 2 million votes more than his closest rival, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar of the PDP. And the president-elect Bola Tinubu on Sunday visited Lagos in what could be described as a homecoming of a sort, during which he told Nigerians he would not disappoint them. And Mr. Tinubu, according to a statement from his media office made available to journalists, said he arrived to a tumultuous welcome at the presidential wing of the Murtala Mohammed Airport, Ikeja. The statement signed by Tunde Rama noted that the president-elect was received, among others, by Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, Chief of Staff Tayo Ayinde, Musliu Obanikoro, and other top functionaries in Lagos. The train then proceeded to Iga Idugoran Palace, where the Oba of Lagos, Rilwanu Akiolu, and some of the traditional rulers in the state and white-cap chiefs were already waiting. And meanwhile, Bola Tinubu, president-elect of Nigeria, says he is ready to work with world leaders who have extended the arm of friendship following his victory at a presidential poll. Congratulatory messages have been pouring in from world leaders since the announcement, with the United States of America and Rishi Sunak, UK Prime Minister, commending the APC standard-bearer. And Tinubu, in a tweet on Sunday, said the gestures from world leaders demonstrate the important role Nigeria has in the world. He described it as an encouraging sign that the rest of the world is interested in partnership with Nigeria. And Tinubu's victory has not come without criticism, with opposition political parties calling for the nullification of the result. Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party and Peter Obi of the Labour Party have declared their intention to challenge the result in courts. And meanwhile, Ayo Adebanjo, leader of the Yoruba socio-political group Afenifere, has said the result of the presidential poll is nothing but a sham. The elder statesman also reprimanded the critics of former President Olusegun Obasanjo following his letter calling for a review of the election. In an interview, Adebanjo said the outcome of the election is just the result of a bad government. He faulted the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, for its conduct, adding that the commission needs to answer certain questions raised by Nigerians. And the People's Democratic Party has asked its members to join a protest at the headquarters of the Independent National Electoral Commission in Abuja over the result of the presidential election. On Wednesday, INEC declared Bola Tinubu candidate of the All Progressive Congress. And the United States Ambassador to Nigeria, Mary Beth Leonard, has said that the presidential polls of the February 25 failed to meet the expectations of Nigerians, and the ambassador acknowledged that many are angry and frustrated with the results, while some others are celebrating victories they believed were hard-fought and well-earned. She, however, commended Nigerians for demonstrating their dedication to democracy. Leonard therefore urged the Independent National Electoral Commission to promptly address the challenges that can be resolved ahead of the March 11 gubernatorial elections and to undertake a broader review of the problems that transpired during the last elections and what can be done to fix them. In addition, she urged INEC to share with the Nigerian public information about the actions it is taking. And the Federal High Court in Lagos has ordered the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to electronically transmit results during the March 11 governorship and House of Assembly elections in the state. An order was issued on Friday by Peter Lifu, the presiding judge. The judge ordered that the results must be uploaded immediately after the completion of voting in all polling units, adding that the results sheet should be pasted in each polling unit after voting in the state. Alifos made the orders while ruling on a motion ex parte. The motion was filed by the Labour Party governorship candidates in Lagos, Gbadebo Rhodes Vivo, and 37 others. The applicants had approached the court through their lawyers, Abbas Ibrahim. The substantive matter is fixed to be heard on March 7. And the pro-Tinubu Shatima groups in Rivers State are now at loggerheads over who truly delivered the candidate in Rivers State. A faction of the All Progressive Congress, the Presidential Campaign Council, and the Tinubu Shatima Independent Campaign Council has expressed appreciation to Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike for helping the party's presidential candidate Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu to win the February 25, 2023 election in the state. And while the other faction countered that, they say the appreciation should go to Rivers residents who took out time to campaign and vote their presidential candidate. The report.
Victory sung by members of the Rivers Tinubu Shatima Presidential Campaign Council. A stalwart of the All Progressives Congress in Rivers State, Tony Okocha, while addressing journalists on behalf of the Grassroots Independent Campaign Council, said Governor Wike made huge support and is instrumental for the victory of Bola Ahmed Tinubu instead of Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party. The state coordinator of the ICC, Augustine Okocha, backed by some members of the group, countered the Okocha group.
Is to put on record the role of Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State, a leading member of the G5 governors, in bracket integrity group, who not only threw his heavy weight in political maestro and malverism in support of the APC candidate, but encouraged Rivers people
for the victory of Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the APC in Rivers State belong to all Rivers persons who turned out to vote for the candidate of our party, and to the dynamic campaign structure that carried the message of renewed hope.
Ahead of the March 11 governorship election in Rivers, Okocha urged members and supporters of the party in the state to vote the governor's preferred choice in appreciation of his support towards the emergence of Tinubu as president-elect. But the state coordinator of the ICC disagrees with his counterpart and urged Rivers people to reject Tony Okocha's opinion for governorship election in the state.
As Rivers people, we take our destinies into our hands. No external nor centrifugal forces must dictate for us. We have witnessed and enjoyed good governance in Rivers State under Governor Nyesom Wike, a government that continues to inaugurate and commission projects even at her twilight should be commended. A chief of the old bloc should therefore be encouraged, supported, and promoted.
It is further important to state that at no time did the PCC/ICC meet to authorize Chief Tony Okocha to express the opinion and sentiments so expressed.
And I'm moving on to news outside Africa. Clashes have erupted between police and a group of demonstrators in central Athens on the fringes of a protest by thousands of students and railway workers over Greece's deadly train crash. A small group of protesters hurled petrol bombs at police, who responded with tear gas and hand grenades before dispersing to nearby streets on Sunday. Authorities say at least 57 people were killed and dozens were injured on Tuesday when a passenger train with more than 350 people on board collided with a freight train on the same track in central Greece. After protests over the past 3 days across the country, some 10,000 students, railway workers, and groups affiliated with leftist parties gathered in an Athens square to express sympathy for the lives lost and to demand better safety standards on the rail network. And now on business news, the managing director of the Nigerian Ports Authority, Mr. Mohammed Bello Koko, says the concrete fencing of the Tinkan Port will help to enforce the usage of the automated access control gate. He expatiated on this during a tour of the Tinkan Port to ascertain the level of execution of contracts awarded, that it was to look at operations at the port to see what they had achieved so far in terms of improving sanity and ensuring that only people that should be in the port had access, as Tinkan has now been fenced using concrete walls from the outside. The essence is to secure the port not just because of safety, but also to restrict entrance. The concrete fencing of Tinkan Port will help to enforce the usage of the automated access control gate, and this move will create an enabling business environment within the port's location, as referred to by the International Ship and Port Facility ISPS code. And now on entertainment news, following a great run at the Sundance this January, CJ Ferry Obasi's Mami Wata headed to the Pan-African Film and TV Festival of Ouagadougou, FESPACO, for its African premiere. And here the black and white drama continued its award sweep by picking up 3 trophies at the festival-themed African Cinema and Culture of Peace. Mami Wata won the Prix de la Critique Paulins Vera African Critics Award at the Special Award Gala 9th. Next, the drama received the Miller Image Cinematography Award, and finally, the Miller Decor Set Design Award. Mami Wata, which took 7 years to develop and complete, is named after the African mythical water spirit. And now in sports news, on Sunday, Liverpool's record 7-0 rout of the visitors reduced United's newfound swagger to a stagger. And Liverpool have now won 4 of their last 5 league games after a run of 3 defeats in 4. And club paid tribute to Salah, who became Liverpool's record scorer in the Premier League and from 61 fewer games. Liverpool go to bottom side Bournemouth next weekend, having beaten the South Coast club 9-0 this season. And that's the news brief. For more stories, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. And you can also view us from Limex and Limex.tv and Glow TV apps anywhere in the world. I am Destiny Mama. Many thanks for watching.
Is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria?
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Politicizing our humanity. You see, Nigeria today has become a den of unknown gunmen. And I say that because for every new report you see now, any news, anything, you see unknown gunmen kills 20, unknown gunmen kidnaps 50. So any small thing is unknown gunmen, and the level of insecurity in the country today has risen. You know, so today we no longer ask whether our lives are, and properties are secured. We only ask who is next to be killed or kidnapped. You know, we check and we see, okay, whose family is next? Which family is going to be thrown into mourning? So right now, Nigerians are only waiting, and we're waiting and saying, whose turn is it going to be? The level of insecurity in the country has become extremely worrisome. The lapses created by government, by the inaction of government. You know, government had the opportunity to nip this insecurity in the bud. You know, when it started, you know, it started like play. It wasn't this bad. It wasn't this bad. But now, because of government's inaction, we are caught up, and it seems as if there's nothing that we can do about it again. So now it is even worse. It is worse that we as citizens are not making enough noise about the right things. We are concerned about some other things. So despite the worrisome state of our dear nation, the plague of politicizing any little thing, you know, we are quick to say, now this party they run amo, now this party they do amo, is because of this party. And so right now, we are trivializing the problems and the challenges that we are facing as a nation. You know, so there are talks all over social media claiming that the violence and actions leading to the high level of insecurity, which now threatens our very existence, are sponsored. Members of the ruling and opposition parties have thrown all caution to the wind, and they exchange blames. It is this party, it is that party, rather than just actually recognizing terrorism for what terrorism is and taking actions to stop the incessant killings and kidnappings, which is threatening the very existence of Nigerians. We must stand united or fall divided. We must stand united. Nigeria is at the very brink. We are at the very brink of war. You know, and I don't think we are saying this enough. I think everyone is just looking at, okay, maybe because the thing never touched me, make we just look at, and everyone is just playing with the situation. The situation has become so dire and would worsen if we do not join voices and actions and implore the government to take decisive actions to protect the lives and properties of the people. We must educate and reorientate ourselves. We must advocate for peace and tolerance. Negative and irresponsible tribal comments, you know, it has no other thing to do than to incite violence. So it breeds this intolerance that we have for ourselves, and this tribe will say, now these people, if these people come out, we will get peace and all of those things. And then we wonder why some people are killing another tribe, and why another tribe is killing another tribe. So I feel we must be able to preach peace and preach unity, you know, if at all we want to see the end of this insurrection. I have always said this, and I think this is time to say it again. In terms of, if we're talking about security, I think the time for decentralization is now. The power that the federal government wields as far as security is concerned is too much. And it would seem that even that power now is overwhelming, so such that they don't even know what to do with the power again. Assign state governments with the task of security responsibilities. Yes, at federal government level, there are some powers that you cannot just take away. But let the security apparatus in the police, security operatives that you have, let them be responsible to state governments. Let state governments take charge. Let them take charge. A governor of a particular state will not be looking at while his state is burning, and the governor is crying to federal government to come and help. So what then is the duty and what then is the work of the state government? You know, we had mentioned earlier, but I'm just going to chip in again, that religious leaders have a role to play. You find religious leaders being totally irresponsible and reckless with the comments that they make, knowing fully well the power that you wield as a religious leader, knowing fully well the hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of people that listen to you and take your word as law. You need to be very careful. You need to be cautious of how you urge people on, because comments that you make in ways incite violence against perhaps other religions, and then you have this religion attacking this religion. Oh, they attacked us first. Oh, they attacked us first. So I think now is the time for our religious leaders to come together and preach peace, and tolerance is very important. So once again, I would say conclusively that I think we need there's never been a time to call for peace and to call for tolerance and to call for unity as now, using our voices, using our platforms to advocate for peace. Because at the end of the day, like I said, it's just turning and turning and turning, and Nigerians are just looking at who is the next person to fall victim.
Reading is an essential habit and a culture that must be developed. Nigerians are generally believed to have a poor reading culture. The role of government in promoting reading and equipping reading spaces and libraries in Nigeria cannot be underestimated. But first, we must look at the development of reading habits from the home and the role parents play in encouraging their children.
My parents, my mom used to be a teacher, so reading was obviously part of a curriculum. And then my father used to be a professor and is an author. So I started reading very, very early, and I started reading books that were higher than my age grade. I was reading African Writer series from age 7, age 8, and reading encyclopedias by that time. So obviously my parents had a huge part and encouraged that in me.
In the Nigerian book market, there's a high influx of foreign authors writing for children, but very few Nigerian authors telling relatable, homegrown Nigerian stories.
If you start out reading stories even to your baby, even before they're 1, and then as they get older, buy appropriate materials that are colorful, with easy to read words, and read with them. I think that helps.
Adedotun Enyade, a co-founder of Robin Heights, a leading bookstore in Nigeria, has tips for Nigerian authors and how they can improve on their work and get into the hearts of readers.
The story has to be good, right? If you're writing, whatever you're writing, if you're writing fiction, if you're writing non-fiction, it has to be like, really, really compelling, one. Next thing would be like in terms of like the packaging, right? People have gone past the era where you just take your books to just about any printer to print for you. I think, publishers, self-published authors as well, they need to invest in ensuring that the quality of the book, the final output is one that would, stack up with any book, published, elsewhere in the world. So that's really important. Then I think, what would be like the most important tip for me to them would be just, they need to invest in marketing.
The book business, like any other business, is challenging.
If you ask anyone who's running the business in Nigeria, they will tell you capital, of course, right? Book selling is also, as with any other business, is also quite capital intensive. Getting to pay your rent, getting to actually buy the books and stock up like your shelves when you have them. Hiring good people requires decent amount of capital. So I would say it's getting the startup funds to set up something, and then if you're looking to do it at scale like we're hoping to do, then it also requires you raising funding, which isn't readily available in commercial banks, right? I don't think a bank would say they want to give you a loan to set up a bookstore. They probably will be skeptical about the number of people who read. So for us, I think it's just I would say capital is at the top of a totem pole.
It is commendable that certain individuals and organizations are making concerted efforts to revive the reading culture in the country. The government should also redesign the school curriculum to incorporate more reading activities in primary and secondary schools.
Hello and welcome to What Are You Saying? #Ways, where we talk about topics in the news as it affects us all. I am Usayome Stali, and today Glory and I are rolling solo in studio. Hello, Glory.
Hi.
What happened to you? I can see some fresh breakout. Don't be stressed, young lady.
The stress is, so I've been working from home since all this, so I just came out to office and it's been politics. I'm like, gosh, you guys, I don't want to talk about politics. Leave me alone. I'm stressed. Just leave me alone. Let's move on to something else.
Can you imagine? Hey, my sister, after I saw one pimple, I said, never. I'm not going to go back there. Honestly, Nigeria. I say living in Nigeria is extreme sport. I mean, I'm doing business in Nigeria. All of them is all
of the above.
All of the above. Uti and Alera are joining us via Zoom. Hello, Uti. Hello, Alera.
Hi, ladies.
Hi.
I object to you talking about my beloved Nigeria like that. I object.
Hi.
Not only beloved. Beloved, are you there where you there, Abi?
I object. I object.
Why are you shocked as well, Abi?
Honestly speaking,
Uti, what are you saying?
They're talking about my Nigeria in a way that I do not agree with. I object.
Motiba?
My Nigeria is not an extreme sport. My Nigeria is a cruise. Stop it.
Amen. Oh, amen.
From your mouth to God's ears. But hey, Nigeria, man. It is all well. All right, so the Supreme Court, of course, gave a judgment about the Naira note, and that's what we're discussing today. And here's what we found as today's quote. The Supreme Court's only armor is the cloak of public trust, its sole ammunition, the collective hopes of our society. I mean, so as I said earlier, the Supreme Court earlier today ordered that the old 200, 500, 1,000 Naira notes should remain in circulation till December 31st, 2023. Now, the Apex Court also nullified the federal government's Naira redesign policy, declaring it as an affront to the 1999 Constitution. As I did like this, I do not know what we are saying, but today we want to discuss the Supreme Court's invalidation of the federal government's Naira redesign policy. That's what we're going to be discussing. But first, let's quickly go on a break. When we come back from the break, we'll see what we found in the news. All right, you are still watching where is now World Hearing Day 2023. It's a day that is observed on the 3rd of March to spread awareness regarding hearing loss and safe listening as a means of maintaining good hearing across the life's course. Now, you see this particular day, Nigerians, we have problem. Everywhere you go, the noise is so loud. Generator, there is so many things just disturbing your eardrums, like the ones that are discussing in my ear, you know. And I noticed, I noticed that Nigerians naturally, they speak very loudly. It's not because, you know, because they can't hear. Like sometimes I'm talking to my mom, she'll be, you have to like go up top of your voice before she can hear. So this hearing loss matter, if they go and check, you know, I'm sure about 70% of Nigerians, they've lost, you know, a good chunk of the ability to hear properly. I think so.
Really, I think it's actually also for those of us who like listening to loud music and having all the AirPods here and there. Well, thank you for reminding us we need to take care of our hearing, because honestly, when I just came to Lagos, I noticed, especially the public drivers, shouting. So I wasn't so, why do you guys have to shout? And that was basically it. And it's like, if you're not that way, it's like there's a problem. But guys, anyways.
I said they've lost their hearing matter. Uti and Alero, what do you want to say about the World Hearing Day?
I mean, we're happy that we have this day to celebrate, so which means that we just have to take notes and remind ourselves, like Glory said, loud music. Me, I'm actually somebody that listens to loud music a lot, and honestly, it's not safe. But I mean, it's great that today we are, you know, pulling the attention to everyone to focus on their health, focus on their hearing. Don't make too much noise. I mean, like when you mentioned generator, the buses on the road, traffic, even honking as well is noise and it affects the hearing. So, I mean, it's great that we focus on this and we have to just take care of ourselves and take care of the people around us and make sure that we use noise cancellation earpieces, you know, just take care of your hearing health, basically.
Uti?
Yeah, I mean, Alera has hit the nail on the head. We take for granted how much noise is around us on a daily basis in Nigeria. And really, it's not just Nigeria, it's the whole world, because with the proliferation of technology, electricity, there's a lot of ambient noise around that we don't notice, right? So we find that we are so accustomed to, if you just listen around your house, if you stop and listen, you see the hum of your AC, the hum of your fridge, almost every device in your house hums, but you actually find that you don't hear it anymore, right? So we're becoming accustomed to those sounds, when in truth, a prolonged exposure to it can cause things like fatigue, it can cause stress, it can even go as far as causing cardiovascular problems. So really understanding the impact of ambient noise. I mean, if you look at some of the research and papers that are out there, it can be scary to think about that, 40 to 55 decibels can really have health impacts on us when we're considerably exposed to it. So just something to think about, even when it comes to whether we can turn off some of our appliances in our personal space if we don't need to. People that have televisions and all sorts in their bedrooms, just ways to be conscious about it.
Absolutely. I hate televisions in the bedroom. I hate it with it. Like, I can't stand, when I'm alone in my room, I switch off everything because I just don't like the sound of television. I will not be able to sleep. And the thing, it's interesting that you talked about the ambient noise, Uti. Do you know that my water dispenser, the noise is so loud? So because most times it is being powered by my solar solution and at the same time the off-grid. So anytime the solar is on and maybe they've taken the light from the off-grid, I see that the noise is just, what's making noise in this kitchen? I'll not trace it. So I just switch it off because the noise is just too much. And truly, our ears will become so accustomed to those kinds of sound, and it really causes a lot of disorder. Like me, every little thing I wake up, so I must really have a very peaceful and quiet place for me to be able to sleep well. And now, I read something very, very scary about your brain when you're not sleeping well, how some parts of your brain is eating up that cannot be regained back. Then you start having what's it called? Parkinson's disease. You start to have what's the memory loss one? Yes, you know. So all of those diseases, and the one you're shaking your hand, you know, all of those things is as a result of lack of sleep, and lack of sleep can be traced, you know, to not just having a very calm environment to sleep. When I see people sleep in heavy noise, I give them kudos.
It also goes ahead to, let's just tell some of the people. You know, there are some neighbors that will put on their gen till 2 a.m. irrespective.
Is it 2 a.m. or the next day?
Or the next day. So, like...
I'm setting up a place right now. I've been like, you know how you are so adverse to generator? I've been begging different people, different solar company, please come and give me a solution that I will not need a generator. Because generator noise, I'm not used to it anymore. So anytime I go into a space where there's generator, the thing disturbs me, gives me a bad headache. So, I mean, this thing is actually very important. Yeah. If you are not paying attention to your... Because very soon you will not be able to hear again. That's where you now start hearing people that they've lost the essence of hearing. Yeah. All right, so who are we starting with? Uti, hello. Let's start with you. What did you find for us in the news? It's us today, so we have time to talk.
I'm trying to avoid, you're trying to avoid the stories, but then you also can't avoid the stories. So my story comes from the ongoing saga of the election, and my headline reads, Court OK's Obi, an article's request to inspect election materials. So it says that the Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja has granted access to all sensitive materials of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, deployed for the presidential election to be released to the Labour Party candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, and also to the party, to the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar. So the court journey has begun. The two separate applications, the ex-party applications that were put in by the two aggrieved presidential candidates have been reviewed, and both applications predicated on certain sections of the Electoral Act, I think it was section 146, that has then allowed them to give them the permission to release this information to them to petition against the outcome of the presidential contest that, of course, was declared in favor of the APC party and their candidates. So, like I said, it was just to continue with the story that given that the PDP and Labour Party have rejected the outcome of the election and vowed to challenge it in court, the work has begun. So watch this space.
Absolutely. I like the fact that they are going through legal routes. We're just hoping that our judicial system would be transparent enough. So we are not asking whether something should go in favor of somebody, but let us just see that the process was truly transparent and clear. That's all. And once Nigerians are assured of that, you know, all the voter apathy and all of those things will no longer exist, because a lot of people are now beginning to be very apprehensive about going to any polling unit. Let me come to you, Alera. Your story, please.
So my story, I remember yesterday when you, myself and Adela were discussing, and I'm really happy to see this. Actor Adeyemi Kolawo questions Lagos rep-elect on campaign manifesto. So, you know, it's actually allegedly said that nobody heard about Thaddeus Atta up until, you know, he won the campaign. And I like what he's doing based on the fact that, okay, now you have won. So we would be asking you questions, though, and he actually sent this letter to him and to his, you know, constituents, you know, informing him that, okay, now we've seen that you have won, but would like to know what you intend to do for the people. And I really like that this is happening. So I had to take this news just so that we remind Nigerians that, okay, the election has come. We need to focus on the people that are meant to do the things in the grassroots, and this is going to make a lot of, you know, people actually sit up. So I'm really happy this is happening.
Yeah, just
I want to ask you a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Uti.
So when a doctor, when you hire someone to do surgery, and you didn't do your research before you hired the doctor, then when the doctor is in the operating theater, has started to cut you open, then you now say, I hope you are going to do a good job. I hope you have the qualifications to do this. If you don't, I'm going to hold you responsible. Hello? you might be dead by the time he's done. So Mr. Kolamo is a bit late to the party. Thank you.
You know, in fact, I was going to answer Alero to say that Okonlawo has come out with an apology video.
Yes, exactly.
Because the words that he used in the letter that he wrote, the open letter to Atta, was quite harsh. And he himself alluded to the fact that he shouldn't have used those words. He accepts and he's apologizing for that mistake. The bottom line is, you know, he doesn't want to take away the story, the crux of what he meant by the letter, which was, you know, trying to get him to be accountable to the people and see, okay. Accountable. Yeah. I mean, like what Uti rightly said, do you know that, like, I can tell you for free that 90% of voters do not know who those people that are lawmakers are. So tomorrow when you start to have issues, you not be crying over spilled milk because you are only focused on the executive. And this is one of the errors we must correct. We must continue to correct on this table. You must always learn about your candidates. Learn about the candidates. Don't just vote because you are voting a particular party at executive level. You just continue going like that. It doesn't work that way. If we start to learn about our lawmakers, we will then know how to filter individuals, even amongst all the drama that happens around their political affiliations or their political parties. We must learn that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, so Glory, your story.
So in the spirit of just trying to distract ourselves a little bit, I just had to really search for something I think it's sort of positive. So it reads, China leads the world in 37 out of 44 critical technologies, according to a report by an Australian think tank. China is in a position to become the world's top technology superpower. The key areas dominated by China include drones, machines, electronics. US has 7 critical technologies. UK and India are among the top 5 with 29 critical technologies, while South Korea and Germany making the top 5 in 20 and 17. So I took this sort of like just daydreaming. Hopefully one day I'll be reading this and it's Nigeria I'm talking about being among the top 5.
Don't think that
So, I pray for Nigeria, my country, as Uti said. I pray
for Have you seen the amount of effort that both the Chinese government and the Indian government put in their, what's it called, educational system? Do you know the amount of effort? Do you know how many people that are studying abroad on government scholarship from India and China? See, this thing not be mouth. Do you understand? You can't just wish. Please, don't embarrass me on national television. You can't wish this thing. There are works that you have put in place that eventually translates into things like this. It doesn't just happen. It doesn't just happen. These countries, they pay attention to education. They pay attention. They put their money where their mouth is. They put effort in education. Well, another good news somehow. They said the House of Rep member leader Al-Hassan Ado Dogoa was remanded in prison over alleged murder. Now, according to this report, they said the police authority confirmed the arrest, which was Wednesday, 1st of March, stating that Dogoa was apprehended at Malam Aminu Kano International Airport. According to the report, this APC lawmaker is suspected of leading an attack on the INEC office in his constituency, which resulted in the death of 6 people. It was alleged that the INEC official declared Dogoa the winner of the election at gunpoint. So he apparently put a gun to the INEC official's head to declare him winner. Wow. So I am happy that, you know, he's been arrested, and I'm hoping that we'll find justice for the people that have died, because 6 people actually lost their lives. So when we see stories like this, we're happy to take it. So we'll go on a break. When we come back from the break, this matter, I don't understand it. Uti, I hope you're ready for us. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Bookie November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
All right, thanks for staying with us. Now, according to multiple news sources, the Apex Court made a declaration today while delivering judgment in a suit instituted by 3 states of the Federation. A 7-man panel of the Apex Court held that the old 200, 500, and 1,000 naira notes remain legal tender until December 31st, 2023. The Supreme Court faulted the entire policy of the CBN, saying that the timing and the implementation were defective. Now, considering the tedious economic reality of Nigerians within the last few weeks, what are your thoughts on the Supreme Court's invalidation of the federal government's Naira redesign policy? Now, please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-84663. You can also tweet at us at WayShowAfrica1 with the hashtag WayShow. So me, I had a question that I had planned in my head, but I don't know who I'm going to direct this question to. But please, are we allowed to sue if this thing comes back, if the old Naira note comes back to circulation and they really start to use it? Are we allowed to sue CBN for damages? Because trust me, it is painful. It is painful. I want to sue them on behalf of a lot of people, on behalf of Nigerians, for all our sufferings, because it was just too much stress. I know how many people, in fact, the other day I sent someone to the market. He had a physical fight with somebody because the person could not give him he couldn't give the person 500 naira. I don't have cash. The guy actually tore his shirt and punched him. Do you understand? So I don't understand. Are we allowed to sue these people, first of all? Let me ask that question. Who is going to answer me? Oti, answer this question.
Help us.
No comments.
I think we should be allowed to. So if
I have no comment. I literally am staying out of it.
Honest, really, because it's so like when I actually saw the news, I was first of all weak. I didn't even know what to even think or say, because I know that so many people lost their lives, mostly medically, that they couldn't pay their hospital bills. People were stranded. So many people that could not eat. People queued in the banks. Now some bank workers. So all of this was, in fact, it's just as if everything Nigerians have been going through from day one has been in vain. This most recent one is the one that I'm like, and you know, what do you expect?
Alero, I'm happy you're bringing the human side to this, because on a serious note, let's take jokes apart that I'm trying to smile. This is actually very painful.
Yeah, it is.
We saw so many people stripped naked in the banks, so many bank workers fleeing for their lives. So many things went wrong. Properties were destroyed, damages, on top of this issue of this Naira redesign. Then you come up and all of a sudden, you don't revalidate this money. So who will pay for those losses? The people that have lost lives, people could not pay hospital bills, people could not pay school fees. I remember that woman that stripped naked in the bank was because she was crying that she could not pay her children's school fees. Do you understand? This thing, I don't understand how Nigeria, how they want us to function.
But now, I don't know if we should conclude this, because CBN is here to issue a statement on this, I think, as at now. So, the first time when Supreme Court said this, CBN came and said they are not in support.
Was the president that came?
Okay, the president,
that spoke on behalf of,
So now, I think we should still wait to see what CBN has to say. It doesn't make any sense. What's going on? If they can just at least give us an insight on their master plan, because you have Governor El-Rufai saying that it was CBN's plan or Mefele's plan to make PDP win. And the question in between that is, How? What does he mean by that? Is he trying to say that by taking the old naira out of system is going to reduce the power of APC from maybe? I'm just trying to understand the meaning of that statement he made by saying taking the old naira away will hinder the chance of. We increase the chance of PDP winning the elections.
Somehow
So
they
I don't
are
really
just
understand.
admitting quietly that they are all vote
Exactly
buying. Go ahead, Alero.
No, sir, no, I'm just concurring with what you just said. Like, with what they are just doing, there's been a plan from day one. So whatever the plan is just to play to the best of their own, to favor them. So now that everything has ended, it not favor them. Now they're able to go back to change it. But it's still the people that are suffering. So for me, the fact that they've taken Nigerians for granted for this long is just so irritating, really. Even to the smallest of things that they could even, this is what they can control. Money you did not work for people in their accounts, but we have to use this money. After all the drama back and forth, Nigerians were still dealing with the whole fuel scarcity at the time. Then the whole naira, the one that you had to quickly shut it down in February. Like, I'm so, like, I don't even, like Glory said, yes,
Okay, so can we bring out a bit of clarity in this matter? Or can we bring some statements of facts that the governor made?
So let me...
Okay, sorry, Uti, because I was coming to you, Uti, with this, because I remember that recently I was in the UK and I had to call Uti to help me out because I had apparently I didn't even know that. I thought it was only the £20 notes that I had that were old. I didn't know that the £50 notes I had too were also the old design. So I called Uti, and the simple thing she did was she just Googled and told me, okay, I'll go to this particular post office. You'll be able to swap the money and they will give you the new naira, new pound note, right? And it was such a seamless process. There was no hassle, right? I went somewhere before. I told you guys that the guy cheated me, but when I eventually spoke with Uti and she told me where to go to, it was actually not. It was 0 to nothing. That I didn't pay any charges for it for them to swap the money. So some of the points that the governor made about the ill timing and the fact that it was hurriedly done. So okay, now the Queen of England passed on, of course, a few months ago. They've even redesigned the new notes now. This one that I even said was old. This new one that I collected is even now old because now the new notes will carry the prince's face on it. And they have given a plan that it's going to be in 2024, right? That the new pound notes, they will completely phase out this entire old notes and have the new ones, right? So, in saner climes, in all fairness to what the governors were saying, which is the truth, in saner climes, you don't just do these kinds of policies and just brashly implement it like that. But you see, there's a Nigerian factor that people always like to wait till dying minutes, right? So I don't understand. So, Uti, the question is, first of all, when you look at all of these things, do we even start to draw lines to say, okay, this person was wrong, or how do we even approach the conversation with this Naira redesign and this new, order from the Supreme Court?
Well, I think I would like to first of all split two things. There is the policy itself and there's the implementation.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with the policy because the policy itself was designed to solve a number of problems that Nigeria currently has. So the policy itself, in my opinion, was not the problem. Now, if we come to the implementation leaves a lot to be desired. Given that we've seen the impact it has had on the lives of Nigerians, it has had on the banking sector, it has had, and it's still having, in fact, because we're still in the throes of it. It's not like the new notes are readily available. So the implementation leaves a lot to be desired, and it caused a lot of people to question the motives behind it. Of course, all sorts of things were being posited, whether it was the election that was part of it, all sorts of theories were posited. So definitely the implementation didn't work. It has cost a lot of people, it has cost a lot of organizations, and its impact on the economy certainly will take quite a while for us to recover from. Now, when we come down to what this ruling says, because I was trying to pick apart what basis, or on what basis were they saying that it was invalid, right? Because For starters, I remember when the president came out during his address to say that the 200 naira notes, old notes, would be put back into circulation. And there were questions then being raised saying, but you have a case in court, right? How are you able to make this proclamation to say we're going to put it back into the, the old notes back into circulation? And the cause as to whether it was a democratic rule or it was an autocratic rule. So all of these things have been brought to the fore. Now, for me, I always ask the question to say, what I saw from, I mean, this is, again, a lot of analysis hasn't gone into it, but just reading the newspaper stories that have reported this, it doesn't appear that the problem is in the doing, did I put it that way? It's not that it was unlawful, but it was more the manner in which
it was done.
That there was not proper consultation with the people, that the time in which it was put together was short. I believe when the panel member who was given the reading of the outcome also said that I believe the president had an executive right, but that adequate consultations had not been put in place before it went ahead. So it sounds more like they're sticking to the implementation, which is why I was trying to split it, to say, where is the invalidity coming from? Because if you come then to the CBN Act, which now speaks about legal tender and all, I was trying to find something in there that says, that speaks to this, and I found in section 20, it says there that notwithstanding subsections 1 and 2 of section 20, which says that the currencies are legal tender in Nigeria, both in notes and in coins, but that section 3 says the bank shall have the power, if directed to do so by the president, and after giving reasonable notice in that behalf, to call in any of its notes or coins on payment of the face value thereof, and any note or coin with respect to which a notice has been given under this subsection shall, on the expiration of the notice, cease to be legal tender, right?
So the question that they are now dragging is, who defines adequate notice?
What is reasonable notice? So that was what I was trying to find, that what was the timing, the legislation behind it to say that that was the case. So I believe this is the section on which they're standing upon. But again, as with all acts are always very vague. That is why when you have an act, then you have a policy to clarify what the act is. So the governors are saying that we did not have reasonable notice, and given the realities and the causalities that we've seen, I think everybody can adequately agree that we didn't have reasonable notice. Because if we had reasonable notice, we wouldn't have the shortages, we wouldn't have the strife that people have gone through. So that is really where this is coming from.
They would argue with you that, CBN would argue with you that this thing, they announced it a long time ago. They announced when it was going to be, what's it called? You see, when you say reasonable notice, right, that kind of a clause is left for everybody's interpretation. What is reasonable to me is unreasonable to you as a person. So I was going to say that, because you know why I'm saying this, that, you know, CBN would also argue with you that because the governors were trying to prove a point, you know, some of those, demonstrations, some of those mayhem that we saw was orchestrated. Do you understand? It was sponsored by these same governors because they were hell-bent on proving a point that that notice was not long enough. Now look at the timing that the Supreme Court has given for change of currency to December 31st, 2023.
Yeah, but you know, for me, right, I don't want to go based on any speculations. I just want to go based on what we see.
Yeah.
So if you say that the period, the notice was reasonable, right? If you say that, okay, CBN announced this in the last quarter of 2023, there was enough time. Even if there was enough time, the CBN itself has not been able to produce enough naira to meet demand. If they were able to, right? If this was a situation of, I can access notes comfortably, I can go about my daily life comfortably, where even in seeing that the acknowledgement of releasing the 200 naira old notes is you accepting that, you know what, I haven't been able to meet up with demand. So everything that has actually happened shows that even the CBN was not ready to meet the demands, right? Because, well, let me not say they were not ready. They were unable to meet the demand because we still have that shortage today.
Okay.
To which we are releasing those new notes. So for me, I don't see that there's any, even if you want to take the facts of saying it's not a length of time, but you want to take it and say, okay, were we ready? Is everybody okay now? We are not.
Okay, let's go on a very short break, right? When we come back, I'd like to hear Gloria and Alero. Then, Uti, I have a follow-up question for you. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the Babin, I pay my rent. On the Babin, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
All right, thanks for staying with us. Now, if you just tuned in, we are discussing the Supreme Court's invalidation of the federal government's Naira redesign policy. Now, please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you can join the conversation. Send us an SMS or WhatsApp to 081-803-4663. You can also tweet at us at WayShowAfrica1 with the hashtag WayShow. So I was going to ask a follow-up question. Just a minute, Glory. So wait, when you say that sufficient funds or the funds were not available, don't you think that part of what the CBN was trying to control was the amount of Naira in circulation? So that scarcity that we saw was a deliberate act for the CBN to keep, to control the number of, Naira within circulation, which was part of the reason for the redesign in the first place.
So I believe when the president gave his address, he had spoken to, I believe it was 2.7, I don't remember now if it was 2.7, I think it was 2.7 trillion.
Yes.
That he had said was in circulation that the CBN was trying to mop up, of which they had then mopped up 2.1 trillion. I believe those were the figures at the time. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Now, even if you have an excess in circulation, right, there is still the minimum amount or a certain amount that needs to be in circulation for daily life. Forget the ones that we're saying, is being hoarded or whatever you want to call it, right? Now, the CBN has to provide that. So it's like saying you work hard for your money is in your account, but you can't access your money because cash is unavailable, right? So the point I'm trying to make is, even if you say that you want to reduce the number of the amount of cash in circulation, there must still be enough for the people to use. So the fact is, we have a large population of unbanked and underbanked people. We have a large informal sector. We're not going to overnight, in a matter of months, get all those people with suitable identification to then, get involved in banking, as the case may be. Even the CBN itself, that whole sector of agency banking is thriving because of those sectors, because those people still need to live their daily lives. They still need to be served. If you even take away all of this English that we're speaking, let's just take our transportation system. The very ability for a Nigerian to get from point A to point B in public transport today
is heavily cash dependent, yes.
It's cash dependent. There are so few areas. I believe in Lagos State, The Lagos State buses, I think, have a system that is cashless. But
you're doing the carry card services now.
Exactly. We're still largely cash dependent, and that's just one area. That's just one area. Like I said, there's a huge informal sector, there's a huge underbanked sector, a huge unbanked sector, and there's a lot of people that don't even have basic identification. So there's so many factors to take into place that even if we want to implement this, you can't then just restrict cash. You're going to actually impact people's lives.
Yeah, I get you. Okay, Glory, I saw you penning down a few things.
So, what if the president issues a statement and still says he stands on what he said? Because we just heard one side of the story, right?
Uti, please, do you have room in your house? Because I'll be happy to come back and just come and stay with you because I'm tired.
Because the uncertainty is just too much. We've been dragged through so many emotions.
Yeah, I think it's early days now. I mean, this ruling is only a few hours old. So we'll need to wait to hear the position of the CBN.
And the position of the president.
No, let's say we go to hear the position of the CBN. Let's.
But I want to ask a question, Uti. Central Bank of Nigeria in itself, right, is an independent body. Does the Supreme Court have a, what's it called? How do they put those legal terminologies over the CBN? Jurisdiction over the CBN to oversee their affairs. I thought CBN in itself is an entity that stands alone.
Okay, so we're talking about the jurisdiction of the Nigerian Supreme Court. Yes,
the Supreme Court. Does it have a jurisdiction to counter what it is that the central bank is doing? Because the thing is confusing me.
Don't forget that the case is not between this. That has nothing to do with the CBN. The case is between the federal government and the governors. Don't forget that. And the Supreme Court has a jurisdiction in any dispute between the federation and the state or between states. So, in truth, the case has nothing to do. If you read where the case is, this is the governors versus the federal government. What is being adjudicated over is the actions of the president. So it's not really a case against the CBN.
Okay, Alero, you wanted to come in.
I mean, with the way Uti has given us the breakdown like this, I'm actually going to just listen more because, like Glory said, I'm stressed. I have lost all the energy that I have. Just talk more of the Nigerian people who are hearing this news.
It's a case of... Yeah, you remember how we used to debate when we were young? With this few points of mine, I hope I have confused you and not convinced you, because this is the opposite. we are all actually in a state of confusion, right? And it doesn't make any sense for me. All this tussle, they say when two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. Now, what is happening is Nigerians are the ones bearing the brunt of all of this drama, right? If there was an issue, because again, let's look at this policy again. Do you know, you guys did not notice how quickly issues of insecurity just dropped? Kidnapping, right? Because again, most of those things were heavily cash dependent. So now, for instance, you're coming at the airport, all those before bribery and all of those, everything really reduced. People that would normally, use police, all of a sudden police, they are no longer on the roads because there's nothing to collect. Everybody, I don't have cash. Do you understand? I'm telling you that this thing within 1 month or how many months that it has been effectively implemented, right? We have seen, yes, there has been the part where the people suffer, they cannot pay, 200 naira to do transport and all of those things. Those parts are there. But the big issues, right? Like issues like extortion, issues like, kidnap, ransom, all of those things just suddenly disappeared because we were not hearing it anymore. So, I mean, there is some level of, good. There's a lot of good to this, right? Yes, it might be the implementation, but I still have a feeling that the people that truly have that it will truly impact, those people are not really affected. The only part that affects them is that they cannot go to the bank to withdraw money. Do you understand? I just have a feeling that most people are hell-bent on stashing money in their houses and deciding, you know what, until the CBN agrees and succumbs so that we can go and move this money. But these things are actually easy. You can just write a petition. Okay, I have XYZ amount of money. If you want to find me, but at least be able to take a good chunk of my money back into the system for me. But you see, I have a feeling that it is because of all the corruption and the what's the word I want to use now in this country. That is why we will not see this, because these things are supposed to be transparent.
Yeah.
Ideally, you're not supposed to have so much cash with you. So if you had legal cash that you can trace the source, this is how a legitimate money that I made. There is no way that CBN gave us those rules and told us that before XYZ, make sure you have paid it to the bank, that you not have gone to the bank. Your legitimate money. Do you understand? I have a feeling that most of these people that are causing all this drama is because they have illegitimate cash, somewhere that they want to. Because why? We've survived 1 month. We survived how many months without the old Naira notes? Why don't you just leave it and let us just continue to, patch up until they are able to at least circulate enough money into the system?
My next question was, does CBN even have, because I feel like by now we'll probably be seeing more new notes in the system, irrespective of the announcement today. So does CBN even have plans of maybe bringing in, circulating new Naira notes, more of it, at least just like Uti said, which is enough, just enough, not too much, but just enough to keep life going for the ordinary man in Nigeria. So that's the question which
Okay, Glory, let me ask you a direct question. The Naira redesign, the new Naira note, how did it impact you, in all your activities?
So I wasn't able to buy basic things because these are very cash dependent.
So would you be happy to have the old Naira back in circulation?
At this point, that's the problem. So at this point, I don't know what to think about it, because I'll say I'm getting used to the new system, if I may put it that way, not having too much cash, even knowing that some market women are now open-minded to say, okay, you can do transfer, but stand until I receive my credit alert. That's just been the normal way currently. So now taking us back.
You think you can live without? Let me ask Uti and Alero this direct question. What do you think? Would you be okay for us to have the reintroduction of the old Naira notes back into the system? Alero, do you want to come in and I'll ask Uti?
Honestly speaking, I was even just thinking of the direction of what you were even talking about, that now that they've extended the date, should we start expecting insecurity and kidnapping and the likes? Because, before now, it's reduced. We've not heard anything about it. So at this point, honestly, I don't know I think I feel indifferent, because I'm worried of what will start happening now if the old Naira starts to recirculate. So I'm just hoping that it doesn't go back. We don't go back to where we were coming from. That's my own concern and my own worry.
So would you? Go ahead, Uti.
So, I know we've talked about the reduction of insecurity and all of this. I think that our visibility on those issues in the recent weeks and months has also been limited, because by nature of the news cycle, there's been so much else that's going on.
Yeah, we've been consumed by political conversations.
Yes, so I don't know that factually we can say that those things have reduced. We probably are just not hearing about them because there are more other issues in the news cycles. But we do need to hear from the CBN in terms of what their plan is, because cash remains legal tender. So even if you are pushing a cashless policy, and like I said, there are a lot of benefits to that policy. Even if you are pushing that policy, cash remains legal tender. So they do have to make cash available. They do need to put policies in place to curb these excesses and ensure that the money is in the banking system and not just being hoarded or used to perpetrate crime. So in terms of what Glory was trying to say, then yes, as long as cash remains legal tender in Nigeria, then cash needs to be available for you and I. Other means a part of the solution, but it's not 100% replacement. But I think that a lot of the questions we have now is still dependent on hearing from the central bank to say what their approach is, because I know that there were some conversations or reports of the conversations around, the courts not having jurisdiction over CBN and whether or not the CBN is going to accept this ruling. So we really do need to hear from them.
But I was just going to say quickly, Oti, even for the sake of the banking drama that we've been facing, honestly, it's been hell. So there are some banks now, I have sent them declined receipts. They are telling me go to one app, one thing. They've not reversed the money. It's over a month now. Now imagine if, that was my only funds, Yeah. So I mean, even the banks are not fully ready for a full-blown cashless. I mean, you go to other clients, you just put your phone, they just scan your this thing. You don't even put all those PIN numbers. Their technology has so advanced, right? I was so excited that I used one of my bank dollar card and it worked. I say, praise the Lord, because there's just a lot that has gone wrong in terms of our unpreparedness. And I think if CBN is trying to, implement this, they should really look into the readiness of even these bankings, because banks did not expect the influx. Like, some days ago, we had to do salaries and all of that. To get some banks, it was hell. It was like you must be persistently trying and trying. Yeah. Some I had to try like 10 times, before the transaction finally went through. So it's a lot of traffic. It's a lot of load on the banks, So I don't know. I don't know whether I really want the old Naira back.
Coming back to your question again, for me, I think if CBN is not ready to inject more new Naira notes, which is just going to be enough to sustain the economy, then I think the old can go side by side, because the suffering is, I'm particularly really disappointed because we've suffered already. It's like, what was the essence of all this suffering? So that's the indifference I have when they're talking about the old notes again. It's not like it's something that's bad, and it's just like, we've suffered already, so let's just go ahead with whatsoever it is. But then, if they're not ready, because I was thinking maybe after the elections, there'll be more circulation of the new notes. But I don't know how ready CBN is. If they are not ready, then I think it's better if, the old notes can go side by side, the new notes.
Abi, okay, somebody says the reversal is best, but you didn't put your name. Uti, I think you have a comment.
Okay, so my comment says, one second. My comment says, when policies are made for individuals without considering the generality of the people, it is already dead on arrival. Our leaders are always looking at themselves as emperors and not leaders. Even in Zaria today, banks are still closing their gates to customers and reducing customers as beggar or two beggars. That's Raphael in Zaria.
Because banks are still afraid. I mean, before I could even get my account officer herself, I think she has even jackpot, because she gave me somebody else's number to chat of when I was trying to complain about the declined transactions, and that up till now, I haven't gotten a reversal. I did another one yesterday. The transaction went through, but it was supposed to be for power, but they didn't send the token, but only for me to, like almost 24 hours later, I saw a credit alert back. So it's just a lot. Glory, your comment.
The system is trying to adjust.
Right?
Okay, this person says, good evening, my dear beautiful sisters of What Are You Saying? There is no too much talk. It is very obvious that CBN and the government are deliberately and wickedly heartless, okay? If they know that we can still use the old notes after the election, then why didn't we use them before the election? What then happens to the lives lost and those that fell sick? Can the lost lives be retrieved? The answer is no. I think I support you, beautiful ladies. We need to sue the CBN governor and the federal government for damages, because this is highly unacceptable. How can I be denied access to my hard-earned money? It doesn't make any sense to me at all. This thing did not happen during the time of Charles Soludo. Then why is it happening in the time of Godwin Emefiele? I rest my case for now. My name is Daniel Ilo, Waste regular fan.
Thank you, Daniel.
think.
But why are they invalidating the Naira redesign policy itself? Because Uti, like you rightly said, it's not the policy that really is the issue. It was the implementation. So why are they not focusing on the implementation? Why are they just outrightly invalidating the policy itself? Is what I don't get. But hey, what's in concern me? What do I know? Aleo, you have a final word?
I wanted to say that we are nothing but pencils in the hands of the creator.
As Wale Adenuga production. This is super. I'm telling you, Nigeria is super story.
No, it's so painful. Remember when we had this news today? Everybody was like, gosh.
Like, a life of strife and sorrow. This is super story. Uti, find out what to.
Well, see, this is why at one point in time they said Nigerians were the happiest people on earth, because no matter what we face, we can find our song, we can find our laughter.
I'm telling you.
I think that's the part God gave us.
Yeah, so I mean, there is a lot going on, and I can admit that on the surface of it, when you just look at it plain black and white, you're just like, so what was this all for? What was all the suffering and the pain for? But it's still very much in flux that this ruling has come out. We don't know, even though Glory asked the question and I stepped away from it, we don't know what the outcome will be. But as always, Nigerians, we are tenacious people. That is, again, I think why God gave us that tenacity. So we have to hold on and see what happens in the coming days.
Okay, it is well. I will have to find laughter, honestly, because the past few days I've actually been stressed. But I told myself, I said, no, I'm not going to let the devil win this one. I must keep my joy, keep my head up, And I know that there's always light at the end of the tunnel. For CBN and the Supreme Court, when people have finished what you want to do, me personally, I will galvanize Nigerians to sue you, so that we'll sue you for damages. We'll use the money and go to Maldives or somewhere for holiday. Kilo day. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you, Glory. Thank you, Uti, and thank you, Alero. We had a fantastic conversation. It's a great way to wrap up the show for the week. Now, before we go, ensure you follow us across all our social media handles at PlusTvAfrica. You can interact with us further, drop a comment, and more importantly, follow all our engagements on social media, like, share, and invite your families and friends to watch and follow. Now, if you missed our quote today, here it is again. The Supreme Court's only armor is the cloak of public trust. Its sole ammunition, the collective hopes of our society. But it's looking like it is Supreme Court and CBN now that want to give us palpitations. But we'll see you guys live at 8 p.m. on Monday as we bring another great conversation to your screen. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome to One on One. I am Maureen Mwizigwe.
My guest today is Dr. Nosike Agoke, former Managing Director, CEO at John Holt PLC. He's a seasoned corporate manager, boardroom expert, legal practitioner, banker, economist, corporate governance expert, chartered secretary, arbitrator, an International Finance Corporation certified board and governance evaluator, among many other achievements in Nigeria, the UK, and other parts of the world. Dr. Agoke, welcome to One on One.
Thank you, Maureen. It's my pleasure to be here.
Well, as I was telling you before the cameras came on, the list of your achievements are just endless. I had to stop myself at some point. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So how would you describe Nigeria's economy as it stands today?
Well, I think to put it simply, the Nigerian economy is struggling in the sense that one of the key points about looking at the economy is macroeconomic stability. We have issues with macroeconomic stability. Inflation is a problem at over 20%, even though the government expects that it will come below 20% next year. We'll have problems with exchange rates, very high exchange rate relative to the dollar, the pound, and other foreign currencies. And we'll have huge issues with our oil production. Quite a lot, as we all know, are stolen. And the vagaries in the international oil market leading to falling prices. So the Nigerian economy is really struggling. It's not very, very bad, as many people would like to say, but it's struggling at this time. So we need to do something to ensure that it comes back to a level where Nigerians will be comfortable and there will be growth. There was a time the Nigerian economy grew at over 4%, but as we speak, it's, even though the government thinks that is about 3%, but I think it's below that. So it's struggling for now.
Okay, so talking about the GDP, presently it is growing at a rate that is very slow. Even though it's growing, but it's very slow.
Yes.
And it's driven by the non-oil sector. Can you throw more light on this?
Well, as you know, the oil sector contributes a lot, but the oil sector is not recording appreciable growth at this time. So it's the non-oil sector. You have agriculture contributing about 23%, and you have industry, excluding the oil industry, contributing less than 20%, just about 20%. Mm-hmm. And then you have services, including the subsectors that are not very productive, contributing about 54%. So to a large extent, we're not really into productive activity. We need to come up to produce, to achieve very good growth in the economy. The economy looks very strong relative to other African countries, but looking at the capacity and the kind of resources that we have in this country, we're not growing appreciably.
Yeah, and this problem of oil theft, which you have alluded to, is just been ongoing. It's come to the front burner more than ever before this time around. Can Nigeria ever solve this problem of oil theft, do you think?
Well, the oil sector, I think we need, the will to ensure that we succeed in the oil sector. We've come out with the law that everybody waited for several years, and yet we still have problems and huge challenges in the oil sector. So oil theft and the fact that the government does not seem to be very serious with dealing with issues of oil theft is even a pointer to the fact that the problem may not end soon, right? So we've had about ships and some persons arrested, but it does not appear that anything serious has been done. I think we need discipline in the oil sector. We need government to, come up with very good efforts and plans to deal with the problems in the oil sector. Crude oil is there, gas in abundant, quantities, but in many countries now, because of what is happening between Ukraine and Russia, many countries are now capitalizing on revenue from gas. Mm-hmm. So what are we doing? We have a lot of gas. Nobody's talking to us. Even if they talk to us now, we don't have the capacity to deliver. So it's a shame. And I believe that the problems of the oil sector can be solved if the government has the will and the government is determined. And when I talk about government, I'm not saying that government has not paid attention, but government needs to do something concrete to solve the problem in the oil and gas sector.
When you say something concrete, what do you have in mind?
Well, one of the key issues is infrastructure. So what kind of infrastructure do we have in the oil and gas sector? Because it's very easy for us to talk about abundant resources in terms of gas, abundant resources in terms of crude oil. But what kind of infrastructure do we have? I've read a lot about decaying infrastructure in the oil and gas industry. So the government needs to come in to reinvest heavily in the oil sector and then encourage oil and gas companies to do same. Rev up their assets and then rev up their productive capacities and then deal with the issue of criminality in the oil sector. That's the only way that we can maximize revenue that we get from oil and gas.
Okay, so let's talk about corruption, because obviously all these problems that the oil sector is having is all centered around corruption. How deep has corruption eaten into the system? Well, no, we talk about it, we read about it in the news, and as you've said, some punishments have not been meted out to those who should be prosecuted. How deeply has this corruption eaten in, would you say?
Well, to talk about corruption in Nigeria is like, trying to sing a song for 1 month. It's a major problem. It's in all sectors of the Nigerian economy. And but I am convinced that the government should be able to start from somewhere. But it's not only the government, even the private sector is involved when we talk about the issues of corruption. So it's all sectors of the Nigerian economy. The government must lead. The reason the government should lead this war is because it is government that comes up with laws. It is government that comes up with regulations. It is government that has the enforcement machinery to deal with issues of corruption, right? So there's corruption in the private sector, there's corruption in the public sector, but it is government apparatus that will be used to deal with issues of corruption.
Oftentimes when
the government indicates that it's doing something serious about fighting corruption, then people will be scared. You see that a lot of people, it's a gradual process, it's a journey, but let's start from somewhere. And the government must be serious with making sure that the enforcement machinery works.
Yeah, because when the head is straight, the body must follow suit. Well, people often point to politicians when talking corruption, but truth is also that without the help of civil servants, politicians would not be as successful as they have been with graft, right?
Yes. Well, but we'll talk about politicians. Okay, that civil servants, some, not all, participate in corrupting politicians. That's aiding and abetting. Yeah, that's true. But because I've been in the private sector for a very long time, I also know that some private sector entities also corrupt politicians. So it may be more in terms of dimensions in the public sector, but it also involves participants who are in the private sector. But the point is, I've always said, Maureen, that for us to deal with issues of corruption, there are two major areas that the government must focus on. Focus in the sense of dealing with issues in those areas. One is the policing system, the police system. If someone is caught, engaged in anything that has criminal elements, will the police be very serious and focused to ensure that the whole process is followed to the point of prosecuting? Now, police gets to a point where they say, we're convinced that this person should be charged to court. And let's assume they charge that person to court. Does not matter the status of that person, right? So you charge the person to court, and then you get to the second level, the judiciary. Will the judiciary ensure that the process is followed objectively, diligently, faithfully, to ensure that if this guy or this lady has actually committed an offense, evidenced by facts, that this person goes to jail? Unless this enforcement machinery from the police level straight to the judiciary is strengthened, and we have people who will do the right thing. The issues regarding fighting corruption will be a failed effort. It would certainly be a failed effort. I mean, we've seen quite a lot of people, taken to court, and after about a year or two, you hear that, the police or whoever is not serious about prosecuting, and the person is asked to go.
Wow. Well,
so I believe that the police system, the judiciary, have a lot to do with dealing with issues of corruption. The judiciary cannot arrest people. Police will arrest, investigate, and then charge to court, and then judiciary will then have to do their own bit. But if both sides are not doing exactly what we expect them to do, then the fight against corruption will not succeed.
Well, different aspects of the Nigerian society suffering, the polity, the economy, different aspects. Some would say it stems from the fact that Nigeria is not really one. That some people, or that Nigerians, especially those at the helms of affairs in terms of politics, have not really taken Nigeria as their own, in the sense that we own this space, but rather they see it as, let's come, take for our own region and move. Do you share this thought?
No, I don't at all. I don't, because you look at politicians, and then you look at people who have made money, picked resources from this country that they are not supposed to collect on their own. You look at them, you find that when it comes to the issue of corruption, you see people from the East, people working together to defraud this country. At that stage, nobody says I'm from the East, nobody says I'm from the West, nobody says I'm from the Middle Belt or from the North. They connive to cheat this country. So it's not and look at the various areas. What kind of development do you have? So if people are saying that people steal to take to their own region, they should go to those places.
Well, we're having a bit of problem with connectivity.
Poverty. You see a typical politician or someone that a lot of people believe has made money out of government resources. He go to his village. So some of them don't even go to their villages. They don't even have things on ground in their villages, right? Many of them live in Abuja. Many of them live in Lagos. So there's no development in their village. But they claim to be billionaires who have made money, from contracts that they took from government civil servants. So I think that it's not a matter of, I'm from this area, so I must take a lot to take to my area. No, you go to the rural areas and you see abject poverty. It's very unfortunate.
Well, now that you've brought this up, let's talk about the local government and how state governors are said to be the ones eating the money that the local government or the councillors are supposed to use to develop the areas. Of course, some state governors have come out to exonerate themselves from that. But what's your take on all that's playing out regarding local government allocation?
Well, I think, I was surprised when I read that the president was not happy about that, threatening to expose, governors for it. But this thing has been there. This system has been there for very many years. So unfortunately, our political system and our electoral system encourage what is going on now regarding the resources of local governments that governors are appropriating illegally. Now, why am I saying this? The political system is such that governors decide who should be elected local government chairman. They decide it, and that's the truth. That's why you find that in a particular state, when you have elections of local government, every local government chairman is from the governor's party in most states, if not in all states. All right. So when they win the election, win in quote, they are under the whims and caprices of the governor. The governor dictates to them. So when the governor appropriates their funds, they won't complain. They won't complain, because as far as I'm concerned, the governor is my boss.
Because he's his servant's master. His master's servant, so to speak.
The political system is encouraging this problem of resources of local governments appropriated illegally by governors. It's a political system.
So that brings us to the issue of local government autonomy.
Well, yeah, local government autonomy, but you know, I love that. I have always canvassed for local government autonomy, but we must deal with it along with the political system. Because, I mean, we're talking about autonomy of the local government now, but why is it that the governors are still able to control the resources of the local government? It is the political system, the way the system is designed that enables the governors to choose who should be local government chairman. That's the problem. So they can't complain. If you complain, and you know, the governors even have power, you know, to deal with the local government chairman. So the political system has to change. You know, people tell you, oh, the governors no longer have powers to deal with local government chairman, but it's not true. We know that it's not true. So what should be done is to look at the constitution of this country again and look at the systems of politics of this country. That's how we can begin to look at how to solve the problem. Otherwise, even if the president says, I'm going to expose this governor tomorrow, yes, it will not stop. It won't stop.
Well, you're watching One-on-One on Plus TV Africa. My guest is Dr. Nosike Agoke. We'll take a short break. We'll be back in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching One-on-One on Plus TV Africa. My guest today is Dr. Nosike Agoke. Dr. Agoke, let's continue and go back to the issue of oil. Very important, especially now that Nigeria has discovered oil in some part of the north. How would you say that oil rent has shaped Nigeria's economy? And how do you think that this discovery can add value to our economy?
Well, the discovery will certainly add value, but limited value. People are celebrating the discovery of oil in the north at a time that the world is moving away from fossil fuel, right? So the world is talking about moving away from this. So you find that, and Nigeria has made some commitments anyway, you know, and, you know, commitments along the lines of reducing dependence and production of this. So it's, for me, yeah, it should be celebrated, but limited celebration, because we've had oil now since for over 50 years, you know, in commercial quantities, production in commercial quantities. In the next 30 years, I guess that countries like Nigeria will be pressured to stop producing crude oil because of the issues of climate change. You know, so it's not something that should excite us seriously. It's something that, yet it's okay, but the question then is, even if we're going to produce, find good commercial quantities there and we produce, let's assume in the next 30 years, how about applying the revenue from that oil? Because over 60 years now, we've produced oil. How have we applied revenue from oil? People have been stealing money from oil, revenue from oil. So we shouldn't be overexcited, if I may put it that way. It's good news, but let's not be overexcited. We should actually be moving towards, you know, the areas that the whole world is moving into. You know, alternative energy sources. We can't abandon the crude oil wells. We cannot, but we should begin to develop other sources, because the time will come. For instance, electric vehicles. You know, many countries in Europe and America, and even in Asia, have said that they have, you know, periods within which they will phase out, you know, vehicles that are not electric vehicles. And when they do that, even if the measures of climate change that would deter countries from producing crude oil are there, how much are we going to be making from oil when, you know, most of the vehicles on the road will be electric powered engines? You know, so it's good news, but let's not over celebrate it, because it's time dimensional. You know, we have been there for 60 years producing oil in commercial quantities, but I guess in the next 30 years, you'll find that we won't be very excited about that.
And especially now that Nigeria does not have refining capacities. We've been on promises that we're going to activate our refineries, we're going to make this work, and we still import refined products from abroad. And now that Russia and Ukraine are having, their war, and Nigeria is supposed to be benefiting from this, but rather Nigeria is suffering from it.
Well, we're not benefiting from it because, while the crude oil prices went up as a result of the war, right? We didn't benefit from it because we were also importing finished products, right? Mm-hmm. So the gain that we would have made from the increases in prices at different periods in the last 10 months, we lost in higher prices of refined products that we're bringing into the country. So we haven't really gained anything. We would have gained a lot if we were producing enough gas. If we had been serious with production of gas, we would have been gained. Look at Morocco; it's getting a lot from gas. United Arab Emirates is getting a lot from gas. So it's very unfortunate.
Okay, let's move away from oil for a bit. What's your thought on the redesign or repainting of the Naira, as we saw recently?
Well, you know that countries do that from time to time. So there are some countries that haven't done it for a very long time, but some countries do it from time to time. Britain, for instance, because they now have King Charles.
Yeah.
They've resigned their currency, and I believe that very soon the old ones will disappear. Well, it will be a gradual process. So it's not a bad idea at all, particularly when CBN has tried to use that instrument to control money circulation. I read that 20% is only 20% of money that should be in circulation that was in the banking system. I mean, that's a terrible thing. If we had only 20% of that in the banking system, then we had a major problem. So I think that I support what the CBN is doing, provided that they do it well, do it honestly, objectively, and target the outcomes that they have in mind. So I support it.
Okay, so what do we know about the CBN's move? It's the latest move from the CBN to introduce the National Domestic Card Scheme. Is this something that's out there yet? I came across it recently. I don't know how popular it is or how real it is.
Well, I'm one of those that will always like to support the CBN, provided that the strategy or whatever plan is considered very closely before they come out. So I think that the CBN has battled to, achieve macroeconomic stability. The CBN has tried to propel growth in different sectors of this country, in agriculture, in commerce, even in entertainment, right? So I support that measure that the CBN is coming up with. Let me make this point. Many people are quick to criticize the CBN, but I know that the CBN does a lot of research and a lot of great planning before they come out with such things. The CBN will not come out with a measure or a strategy that they believe will not add value to this economy. I think we need to get this point very clear. So the CBN has planned very well, but what is important here is implementation. Mm-hmm. Let's endeavor to implement very, very well so that we can achieve the outcomes that we expect from the strategy.
Yeah, but what is the difference between this national domestic card and the ATM cards that we use? I don't really understand.
I didn't get that.
The difference between this national domestic card and the ATM that we currently use. I'm still very ignorant about what it's about. Well,
it depends on the way it is fashioned. The ATM, as you know, is controlled by the banks. The ATM is not, they are not products of the CBN. They are controlled basically by the banks. And the banks will play a major role, in the processes leading to the other. But ATMs are limited. For instance, there are many banks. You can't use your ATMs abroad. There are many banks in this country. You can't use those ATMs abroad. I remember when we used to utilize ATMs, use them abroad. You put it through a machine abroad, and it gives you whatever you wanted. But for most banks now, you can't. You cannot. So there's an added value. And I believe that's why the CBN is. And CBN is also trying to, I believe, use it to control, put some controls in the monetary system. But I mean, CBN has quite a lot on their shoulders to ensure that this economy works very well. So I guess that part of the reason is to control, the monetary system and ensure that there's achievement of macroeconomic stability.
Okay, well, before we go, let me ask you a question I ask almost all my guests now, because we're getting towards the election year. And that's, what's your assessment of the political climate as we prepare for the 2023 elections?
Well, it's interesting. One thing that I've observed, particularly in the last 5 to 6 months, is the fact that Nigerians truly desire good governance. It's very clear to me now that Nigerians desire good governance. And this is why many people are coming out and saying, we want our PVCs, we want to register. We didn't have this before, where very many youths came out and said, there was even a case of, at the time that, persons were registering to get their PVCs at the TVS in Lagos, where TVS, as big as it is, it couldn't contain, the crowds that went there to obtain their PVCs. We didn't see that in this country previously. So I think that the awareness has actually come up. And many people, and I support that argument, many people have argued that the reason is because this country has not really been well run. So many Nigerians believe that there's a need to turn it around. And that's why I believe the youths are clamoring for participation in the political process. Many of them at last elections were below 18, below 21. And I believe that they are all ready. So I have seen this new movement of many Nigerians wanting to participate, and it's good news for us.
Yeah, INEC revealed that a large percentage, in fact, the highest percentage of those who registered this time is the youth.
Yes. But what is critical here, and that's what I said to a friend yesterday, I said, well, we're all excited about the youth wanting to participate, but what about infrastructure, the political infrastructure? What about the infrastructure of INEC? What about the policing system to ensure that people are allowed to vote and that people are free to vote, to ensure that people are not prevented from voting, people are not pressured not to come out? What do we have in place? So it's not enough to say, well, people are now aware and people are interested, but on that day, can we please, I'm talking to the government now, the police and everybody, can we please put systems in place to ensure that those who want to vote can go to the polling booth easily and vote without anybody harassing them? Because that's where it ends. If we have our PVCs and we're stopped from voting for one reason or the other, then there's a problem. If we have our PVCs and we try to vote and we're not allowed to vote and they rig the elections, then there's a problem. So it's good news that many Nigerians now desire to participate, but the infrastructure must be good.
Yeah, this, which you have said, is very true, which is why I have interviewed on this program one of INEC's 12 commissioners, Dr. Festus Okoye, and I did ask him that question. If Nigerians will, at the end of the day, be assured of a free and fair election, of course, he said yes. I've also interviewed the Police Public Relations Officer, Lagos Command, SP Benjamin Hunde, regarding security towards the 2023 elections. And yes, he assured us that they are synergizing and they are working hard to ensure the Nigerians do have a very peaceful and safe election come 2023. So we just have to take them at their words and believe that 2023 is going to be good for Nigerians. Thank you so much, Dr. Nosike Agoke, for your time on the show.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, and with that, we've come to the end of One-on-One today. I am Maureen Nwezigwe. Thanks for being with us.
Good afternoon. I am Destiny Momo. This is the news update. The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar, is currently leading a massive protest against the conduct of the 2023 general elections in Abuja. The protest kicked off from the party secretariat, popularly called Wadata House, located at Maitama in Abuja, and it's been attended by large party supporters to express their dissatisfaction against the election believed to be rigged in favor of Bola Tinubu of the ruling All Progressive Congress, APC, as they head toward the office of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to call for the cancellation of the elections. Also at the protest are Sokoto State Governor Aminu Tambuwal, a national chairman PDP, Eocha Ayu, and Senator Olujimi, and others. And some of the inscriptions on their placards read, "Our vote must count. We say no to injustice and fraud. Democracy under threat in Nigeria, and save our democracy from INEC," among others. The protesters wore black attire. And the Federal High Court of Abuja fixed May 31 for judgment in a suit filed by Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers, praying for an order restraining the People's Democratic Party PDP from suspending or expelling him from the party. And Justice James Omotosho fixed the date on Monday after counsel to the governor, Dr. Joshua Musa, SAN, and lawyer to the PDP, Johnson Usman, SAN, adopted their processes and presented their arguments for and against the suit. Reports has it that Wike had sued the PDP, its National Working Committee and National Executive Committee as first to third respondents, respectively. Reacting, Usman, who appeared for PDP and others, disagreed with Musa's submission. He argued that the case was only based on speculation, as Wike had failed to provide any evidence to substantiate that the respondents intended to suspend or expel him from the party. He said the party had not contemplated to suspend or expel members of the G5 governors or the Integrity Group. And meanwhile, the Lagos State chapter of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, says it is not officially talking with the Labour Party for any possible alliance ahead of Saturday's governorship and House of Assembly elections. The Publicity Secretary, Mr. Hakeem Amode, disclosed this in a statement in Lagos on Monday, saying it was imperative to debunk claims by the Labour Party candidate, Mr. Gbadebo Rhodes Vivo, that he was talking with the real owners of PDP structure in Lagos State. He said that the statement credited to Rhodes Vivo came as a disrespect to PDP, saying no one could lay claims to the ownership structure of the PDP. Also, Bola Tinubu, President-elect of Nigeria, says he is ready to work with world leaders who have extended the arm of friendship following his victory at the presidential poll. Congratulatory messages have been pouring in from world leaders since the announcement, with the United States of America and Rishi Sunak, UK Prime Minister, commanding the APC standard bearer. And Tinubu, in a tweet on Saturday, said the gestures from world leaders demonstrate the important role Nigeria has in the world. He described it as an encouraging sign that the rest of the world is interested in partnership with Nigeria. Tinubu's victory has not come without criticism, with opposition political parties calling for the nullification of the result. Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and Peter Obi of the Labour Party have declared their intention to challenge the result in court. And the traditional rulers in the 62 communities in the Tiosa local government area of Lagos State have assured a victory for the All Progressives Congress governorship candidate Babajide Sanwo-Olu on Saturday as residents file out to cast their votes for the governorship and House of Assembly elections. Speaking during the press conference at Ikotar on Saturday, the Bale of Lafiaji community and Chairman Bale's Forum, Wasiu Onlarewaju Balogun, urged residents of Etiosa community to put behind them the outcome of the presidential and National Assembly elections and come out en masse to vote for the All Progressive Congress candidates. Balogun stressed that Governor Sanwo-Olu has done so much for Lagos State and deserves to be given a second term of office. Balogun assured of security beef up during the elections to ensure safety of lives and property of residents of the area. And thousands of women professionals from Kogi Central Senatorial District on Sunday trooped out to express their gratitude to voters for turning out en masse to vote overwhelmingly for the All Progressive Congress candidate in the just concluded presidential and National Assembly elections. The women who thanked co-guides and Governor Yahaya Bello of the state for the peaceful conduct of the election said the thank you road walk became necessary in order to demonstrate that women in Central and in the state generally were solidly in support of the governor for giving them the share of voice they had been clamoring for years and to urge him to do more. Led by notable women professionals in the district, the Kogi Central women took off from Okene local government secretariat and walked through the newly built reference hospital down to Total and back to the secretariat, chanting thank you and victory songs as they marched through the streets.
Yahaya Bello has given them voices. It is unprecedented. It has never been like this in the history of the state, not even in the country. The women now have voices in governance. I can tell you that the SSG of the state is a woman.
I want to advise my fellow women to rally round the present governor, Alhaji Yahaya Bello, because he has really done enough for us. He has done a lot. He has bring empowerment to women in the state. And bringing empowerment to women, you know, is very essential in the health and social development of the family, society, and the nation. So I want to appeal to anybody that is aggrieved to seek redress in the courts.
Do more in terms of looking at women empowerment. We have a lot of market women who are into the micro, small enterprises. So we've already have a program that is tailor-made to address the micro and small businesses. So we're looking forward to advocating and working with our senator-elect to see how we can do a lot more than what we've done, what we've been doing in terms of looking at what belongs to Kogi State, in terms of the national purse, in terms of policy, in terms of all that is concerned to bring wealth creation to Kogi State.
We are thanking the women for the way they came out en masse to elect all the APC candidates in the last election, starting from our president, senator, and House of Rep. We are also telling them to please continue to start by the fact. The fact is voting a credible candidate. So we are telling them, come out on Saturday, elect the House of Assembly, APC candidates across Central, then we can have a good representative.
Our reactions have trailed the Supreme Court's order that the old 200 naira, 500 naira and 1,000 naira notes remain legal tender till December 31, 2023. And as on Street Views, take a listen.
The Supreme Court is the apex court in the land, and they are men of wisdom, and I believe that they have viewed the position of the law and feel that that is the way to go. But if you ask me, you see, why did we have to suffer this much before this decision? The policy in itself is not wrong. I am one person who believes in using policy to control crime, to checkmate malfeasance. Now, policy can be used for social engineering and re-engineering, as I always say. Now, the issue is this. The program is designed to curtail kidnapping, to assist the security agencies curtail kidnapping, because once people are not able to move large cash around, then how do you expect ransom? And because, of course, the payment of ransom encouraged this kidnapping. And then so many other things that the currency redesign checked. But the implementation was what was really wrong.
I think it's right. There's been a lot of hardship. We all know that the policy is a good one, but the timing maybe, and communication, information, a lot of people really are suffering. Nobody is exempt. This morning at the bank, one of the banks that I went to, I had to leave because of the queue, and on top of it, their network was not even working. So it's a lot of issues. We need to relieve our Nigerians. We should love ourselves, really. It's a good one. So kudos that there can be some relief.
I think the law is the law. Every law-abiding citizen, whether the decision is good or bad, should adhere to the laws of the land. The Supreme Court is the highest court in Nigeria. So whatever they say, we are meant to take it that way. With the federal government on the policy, cashless policy. Where I have a problem is the way it's the transition process. You know, I don't think the banks were ready. The apps are not working. The POS, failed transactions and stuff like that. That's where the problem is. Ideally, in developed country, I know in Shanghai, China, some people haven't seen cash in like 2 years. So it's okay. Cashless policy is good, but are we ready for it yet? I think now the court has given more time. I think the banks, whatever it is, should, draw a line that will ease the pains of Nigerians.
The essence of changing it is defeated by that ruling. It is a wrong ruling. We have gone through hell already. And the masses don't have the old notes. The implication of that ruling is that the big people who hid it under their beds and in their closets will start flooding the markets with it. Especially, we know, if you are captured or kidnapped, you pay with money. The money doesn't go straight to the bank. They bring it in trickles and then flood the system. It's a very bad ruling, and it's a very bad day in our society.
And moving on to news outside Africa, Iran's supreme leader spoke Monday, March 6, that poisoning schoolgirls is an unforgivable crime which should be punished by death if deliberate. As the TV reported, amid public anger over a wave of suspected attacks in schools, over 1,000 girls have suffered poisoning since November, according to state media and officials, with some politicians blaming religious groups opposed to girls' education. And the poisonings have come at a critical time for Iran's clerical rulers after months of protests since the death of a young woman held by police for flouting hijab rules. At least one boys' school has also been targeted in the city of Barujad, state media report. And now, moving on to business news, the managing director of the Nigerian Ports Authority, Mr. Mohammed Bello Koko, says the concrete fencing of Tinkan Port would help to enforce the usage of the automated access control gate. And he also expatiated on this during a tour of the Tinkan Port to ascertain the level of execution of contract awarded, that it was to look at operations at the port to see what they had achieved so far in terms of improving sanity and ensuring that only people that should be in the port had access, as Tinkan has now been fenced using concrete walls from the outside. The essence is to secure the port, and not just because of safety, but also to restrict entrance. The concrete fencing of Tinkan would help to enforce the usage of the automated access control gates, and this move will create an enabling business environment within the port's location as referred to by the International Ship and Port Facility Code. And that's the news update. I am Destiny Momo. Thanks for watching.
Since the beginning of this campaign, Jando and Funke have rigorously traversed all wards in Lagos State, from Ikorodu to Badagry, Ekpe to Alimosho, seeking to know the true state of our state and where the shoe really pinches. They visited the riverine communities and places that have never been visited before by any governorship candidate in the history of Lagos politics. Funke's market storm is also the first of its kind by a deputy governorship candidate. Lagos. There's so much work to do. It is time to give the man who knows Lagos and can birth a breath of fresh air the chance to lead. Vote Dr. Abdulaziz Olajide Adediran Jando as Governor of Lagos State. PDP! Power to the people!
Change is inevitable. Join us on Ballot 2023 all day on Election Day on Plus TV Africa for nationwide coverage with seasoned reportage and analysis. Ballot 2023, Nigeria's moment of decision. All day on Election Day on Plus TV Africa.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Menstrual cycle is a way the body of a woman releases tissue. Menstrual cycle is a way the body of a woman releases tissues that is no longer needed in the body. Every month, the body of a woman prepares for pregnancy. The lining of the uterus gets thicker as preparation for nurturing the fertilized egg. There are 4 phases of the menstrual cycle, which is menstruation, the follicular phase, ovulation, and the luteal phase. Common menstrual problems include heavy or painful periods and premenstrual syndrome, PMS. In an interview with the family physician, Dr. Nwachukwu Chukwuemeka, he gives a deeper explanation of the menstrual cycle.
Menstrual cycle is defined as a time clock within a female or a woman of reproductive age, especially from puberty, where there is a production of the eggs in your ovaries, and then the preparation of the womb to receive this egg, hoping that it will be fertilized, and then the discharge of this egg when it is not fertilized, or the growing of this fertilized egg into a baby. Okay, so now that cycle takes usually a month, and this cycle usually a month averagely, so it seems to take 28 days. However, there are variances, so we give a normal phase of plus or minus 7 days, meaning that it could span from 21 days to 35 days. So that's why it varies for women. So the menstrual cycle is the period from the release or the preparation of the eggs in the ovaries to the release of these ovaries down to the womb, and then it is discharged and you all see it as blood.
Dr. Chukwuemeka explains why some women go through pains before or during the cycle, which makes them use hot water bottle to soothe it before they will be relieved for some time.
Painful menstruation, which can be described as dysmenorrhea, is possible because, first, during the movement of the eggs, there are lots of hormonal activities, and it has seemed first to be either due to the tubes, the contractions of the tubes, especially when you're talking about before the period, especially in ovulation. So there's usually ovulation pain, which is milder than the menstrual pain itself. So the contraction of the fallopian tubes is a milking movement, milking the eggs through the tubes into the ovary. Okay, and then when it gets into the ovary, it stays for approximately 24 hours and then begins to degenerate. Before then, the womb is preparing a space, a bed for this egg to be implanted if it's fertilized. But while it's doing that, it's not implanted. And so that brings me to the stages of the menstrual cycle. So there is the proliferative stage, which is the stage at which there's production of many things. And then there's a secretory phase, which is the phase where the egg is expecting to, to be fertilized, and then also expecting to either become a baby or it is discarded. All right. So when that happens and this egg is not fertilized, the uterus begins to contract in order to expel it. That contraction is usually painful. Imagine your fist very tight. Okay, especially for a woman who hasn't given birth before. That's how tight her uterus is. Very small and tight, compact. Now, within that fist is a slit, a tiny slit that allows for this egg. Now, when this fist is going to contract on itself, the pain will be heavy compared to a woman who has given birth before. So there's a lot of space and contractions, is a little milder. So that's why the painful menstruation gets better with childbirth. Okay, however, that is the typical case. There are atypical cases where the painful feeling increases even with age and childbirth. All right, but majority of the times it gets better in childbirth. So whether the use of the hot bottled waters or the use of drugs, the idea is that you're trying to reduce the level of tension this uterus go through to milk out all the blood, all the mucous layers that it has produced.
Doctors advise women to keep the calendar dates to help monitor their menstrual period to ensure balance. However, they are advised to see their physicians when there is an imbalance in the calculation of their menstrual cycle.
For imbalances in times of menstrual flow for many women, it's in the normal context. I said that the normal is 28 days plus or minus 7. Now, what that means is that you have a range from 21 days to 35 days. But ideally, there shouldn't be an excessive gap between the days. So when someone says, I have a 28-day cycle, what that means is it shouldn't exceed some days from that 28 days. When they cannot calculate it, there is an underlying pathology. There's a problem. There are few problems that have been identified or itemized. One of them is when people have pelvic inflammatory disease, what you call the urinary tract infection or the toilet infection. What happens is that those infections they alter the flow between 1 month and the next month. So when women are not able to calculate, they may need to see their physician to identify what exactly is causing the disparity, the long-term disparity. But if there are a few days, then you shouldn't say you don't know. If they're probably 2 or 3 days apart, then it's still within the range. Okay, but when they are like 1 week apart, 5-7 days apart, then there's an underlying condition. Or when it comes too early, there's an underlying condition.
Overaged pain in some women during the menstrual cycle needs to be investigated, and if there is no problem, then it could be a change in their system.
Many women feel unbearable menstrual pain at their older ages, which is very atypical from the normal. So the response to such is that they need to be investigated properly. They need to, it's very atypical, and if they're investigated and there is no reason, then they may be let low like that, or have some hormonal replacements done for them. But if they're investigated rather, there are certain things that can be the cause. One of them is, like I said, could be a fibroid. Another could be what we call the endometriosis. Okay, endometriosis is the presence of tissues, uterine tissues, in another part of the stomach. So whenever the stomach is beginning to experience that firing impulse, that tissue, wherever it is, it could be in the womb, sorry, it could be in the stomach generally, it could be on the broad ligament, that tissue also fires, and then they feel the peppery sensation at that point. Okay, it could even still be a PID, pelvic inflammatory disease. Now, this condition happening at an older age is very possible, but must be investigated and properly treated. However, if investigated and nothing is found, then it can be classified as an atypical situation. And more often than not, hormonal play.
Medication during the menstrual cycle must be recommended.
First of all, it's not very ideal to openly, prescribe, and then, because what you do is that you validate certain things in the public. People should really be investigated. People should see their doctors, and then he knows what. But yeah, the use of Felvine has been made public already. It could be right and could be acceptable. However, it comes with a side effect, which is intensifying stomach pain in ulcer patients. So it simply means that an ulcer patient cannot use Felvine, or it can cause ulcer because it's an NSAID, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug, which means that it can potentiate the possibility for an ulcer. That also means that if a patient has ulcer, it's contraindicated. If a patient can have ulcer, it's contraindicated as well. Now, there are many analgesics that are available, simple analgesics ranging from paracetamol. All right. The problem is that many times we want the very hard one, ranging from paracetamols to some of the codeines, sometimes depending on how heavy the pain is. More importantly is the use of relaxants. So they are smooth muscle relaxants, some of which we call hyoscine, that we popularly know as Buscopan. These can be used as well to relax it. But beyond that, there are many other treatment plans for painful menstruation. So these simple things can be used as well.
Statistically, painful menstruation can be experienced in about 45% to 70% of women. From puberty to before conception, it can be seen in about 60% of women in that age group. Then, as they get older, it reduces. In the world population, menstrual pain is experienced in over 5,000 women to about 1.5 million in different locations. It is more prevalent in Africans than the Caucasians.
When you hear of drug abuse, what comes to your mind?
When we say drug abuse, it seems like something that is so distant, but it's happening every day in our homes.
1 in every 4 persons has mental illness.
Regardless of your notion of what drug abuse is, you are sure to get the right meaning here. Welcome to Regardless, an anti-drug abuse television show put together by Christ Against Drug Abuse Ministry.
Regardless, the anti-drug abuse show, airing on PlusTvAfrica every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m.
Change is inevitable. Join us on Ballot 2023 all day on Election Day on PlusTvAfrica for nationwide coverage with seasoned reportage and analysis. Ballot 2023, Nigeria's moment of decision. All day on Election Day on PlusTvAfrica.
Hello and welcome to VOA's Red Carpet. My name is Jackson Funganyi. Thank you so much for joining us today. On this episode of Red Carpet, we speak to Nigerian-American filmmaker Amarachi Nwosu. A Ghanaian glassblower is on a mission to reduce the country's glass waste, and we visit an African restaurant in New York City. Let's get on with the show. And we begin the show with some film news. African cinema continues to evolve in the digital era with talented filmmakers from the continent staking their claim in the world stage with highly creative and imaginative pieces. Nigerian-American Amarachi Nwosu is a self-taught filmmaker whose work has landed her projects with huge global brands such as Nike, Sony, and Apple. Amarachi spoke to Red Carpet about her heritage and gave us insight into her creative process. Let's check it out.
Tell us a little bit about your background. How did you get started as a filmmaker? And what are some of the difficulties in this journey you faced through as a African background? What the difficulty you have in filmmaker in the United States?
Yes. So I identify as a Nigerian American. I grew up between Washington, D.C. and Nigeria, and then fully moved here when I was in elementary school. In terms of like getting into filmmaking, honestly, I was really inspired through my frustration of not seeing enough image making that represented people like myself. And with that, you know, I had the opportunity to either complain and be sad or be the change I wanted to see. And so really, you know, that just pushed me to create the spaces that I want to see. So image making really formed for me as a photographer first. You know, the power of an image is the representation and the reflection of a society, of a world. And with that, like, I saw so many people of so many different backgrounds, experiences, and I was so curious, like, why isn't this being seen on television? Why don't I have that exposure? And so that inspired me to start with photography first, which was really my introduction into image making. And then that led me to filmmaking, because the dope thing about filmmaking is the fact that filmmaking brings all these senses together. You can incorporate image making, you can incorporate music, sound, fashion, art direction,
all together,
everything. And so it's also a really collaborative process. And so it allows you to really learn from so many experiences, voices, and really I wanted to, again, just be that change behind the scenes. And this also inspired me to create the platform that I developed, Melanin Unscripted, which the idea...
Good morning and welcome to the Run-Up. I am Uchechukwu Onodo.
And my name is Nyamgul Agaji. We're glad to know that you're there and watching us today, and we hope that today will be both informative, educative, entertaining, and everything that you want to have in a program.
And today we're looking at the statement made by Governor Godwin Obaseki of Edo State, wherein he said that Nigeria would break if the current ruling party, the APC, wins the presidential elections come 2023.
We also will be talking to someone